of the city of San Fernando. And what is the, what's that other meeting called? Nick, I'm forgetting.
Successor agency.
The special, what is it?
Successor agency.
Oh, and the successor agency meeting is now called to order. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Celeste Rodriguez. She's absent at the moment. Councilmember Hector Pacheco. He is absent at the moment. Councilmember Cindy Montanez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mary Mendoza.
Present.
And Mayor Sylvia Ballin.
Present. We do have a quorum. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Now, if we can all rise for the flag salute, please begin. Ms. Fritz is going to recite the flag salute.
Okay, everyone please stand and put your hand over your heart and follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is I need a motion, is approval of the agenda, and I need a motion and a second. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rodriguez. She is not here yet. Okay. Councilmember Pacheco. Currently absent. Councilmember Montanez.
Here. I mean, yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza.
Yes.
Mayor Ballin.
Present. Thank you, Mary,
Yes.
very much. Again, we have a quorum. At this time, we are going into presentations, and I would like to remind everyone that's doing presentation, if you can limit your presentation to 5 minutes, we would truly appreciate it. And at this time, we will start with the Education Commission Certificate of Recognition for Student of the Month. And do we have Commissioner Nicole Moore? Are you on?
I believe the city clerk, just a few minutes, and she's letting all the appropriate parties in for this item. So just bear with us for about 30 seconds.
Okay.
I see we have
Also-
Karina, the guest of honor. So that's the most important person.
Oh, hi, she's so cute.
Yeah.
Hi. So Nicole, if you want to. Hi.
We're just letting in a few more presenters for this item.
Okay.
Okay. And I think we have it. Okay, thank you. You may begin. Thank you.
All right, that's everyone who we needed, right? All right. So I see that Natalia is here with her mom. Natalia is there under the name Karina. That is Natalia's mom. So we will start there. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So the Education Commission chose students of the month, both from kindergarten this month. Council members, we were so excited to present these students to you because their stories brought tears to our eyes. So let's start with Natalia. Natalia is a kindergartner at Morningside Elementary School. This month's theme was caring and kindness, and Natalia uses loving and caring words by showing compliments over Zoom. She likes to compliment people's clothes and hair. She draws pictures for her friends and writes sentences about them. She's respectful, loving, and kind, and likes to help her friends and teachers. She works very hard, is positive, for bringing joy to others. So we are so excited to honor Natalia this month, and thank you so much for having her here. Natalia, would you like to say hi to the City Council?
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Natalia.
Hi, Natalia.
Say thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You're shy now.
Well, I like to take a minute to tell Natalia we're very proud of you, and we're looking forward to you reaching all your goals. You have one very special goal right now is being kind and nice and doing things for others. And I'm very proud of you. Very, very proud of you. Would any of the other council members like to say something to Natalia?
Yeah.
Hello, Natalia. I'm Cindy. Nice to meet you. How old are you?
I'm 5.
Wow. And where do you go to school?
One side.
Oh, well, congratulations that you are with us today, being recognized. Keep up your good work, okay? Study hard and have fun.
Okay.
Thank
Vice,
you.
Vice Mayor?
Hi, Natalia. I'm here, right here. Hi. I went to Morningside Elementary School too back in the day, but you have a very special gift of helping your friends and helping your teacher and being a nice little girl. Continue doing what you're doing. We're proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. How about Councilmember Rodriguez?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And, I like to also acknowledge Mom, the family. If not for the family, our kids need to feel the love and they excel. So thank you so much to her
Thank you.
mom.
Thank you guys for your kind
Okay.
words.
Thank you.
One more student to recognize as well. This is Mia, who I now see is also on our call. Mia is also a kindergartner. And I just want to point out to these kids, they've never met their classmates in person. They're in kindergarten. They started school on Zoom. So their first experiences with school on Zoom is very unique. Mia's teacher said that they tried very hard to do groups and activities on Zoom, but a lot of kids were shy and didn't talk to each other. And so Mia would tell them, don't be worried, I got my and so Mia would spend her break time on Zoom trying to get her friends to communicate. And her teachers noticed that even if they walked away during a break, Mia would take it upon herself to lead conversations. She also never misses an assignment, even though her family has had some health struggles of their own. So we are very proud of Mia. And Mia's teacher shared some things that I didn't think I was allowed to show, but she shared some video clips. Mia is an incredible person and she is excited to change the world. So Mia, welcome to City Council. This is the San Fernando City Council. We're so excited to have you as Student of the Month.
Hi, Mia.
How are you?
God, it's so good that you're with us today. It's good that the two of you are with us today. We're so proud. And do you see your certificate? It's right up there. And I'm so glad that you help all the students and that you try to, this is so hard. I can't even imagine starting kinder on Zoom. I just cannot even imagine that. So the graduating class of I don't know what year they will graduate, but boy, am I going to be proud to attend those graduations, that's for sure. So congratulations, Mia. Congratulations to your family for all the support they give you.
Thank you.
Would any of the other council members, Montanez, would you like to say something?
Well, Mia, congratulations for being Student of the Month. Congratulations. That's great. And how old are you, Mia?
I'm 5 years old.
Oh, great. And what school do you go to?
I go to kindergarten.
San Fernando.
Oh,
San Fernando.
San Fernando Elementary. Great. Well, congratulations. I hope you get these recognitions many, many times and keep up studying.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Bye, Mia.
Bye.
Councilmember Pacheco?
Way to go, Mia. We love you. Keep up the good work. Listen to your parents and your teachers. Okay?
Okay.
Do what they say and always do your chores and eat your vegetables.
Okay.
Okay? You have a great night.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Congratulations. It sounds like you're a really big help to your classmates. And so I just want to say you should keep on helping them because it's super nice to get to know them. And right now you can only do it on your computer like we're doing right now. Keep up the good work. And then when you get to play in person, it'll be that much better because you're going to make friends with everyone in class.
That is so true. Vice Mayor, would you like to say something?
Yeah, congratulations, Mia. Here I am. Yeah, continue working hard, and I know it's really important, the things that you do to help your teacher and your classmates, because there's some classmates that do need the help, and if you can help them one-on-one, that's great. You can really make a difference for them and making them successful students just like you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
That's so cute. Well, I want to thank all the teachers and the family members because this is how our kids succeed. So thank you so much. And Nicole and the Education Commission, thank you very much.
And to our Student of the Month parents, I will be emailing you about delivering those certificates. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Yay. I'm going to miss the kids. Okay. Our next, bye-bye.
Bye.
That was adorable.
That's cute. Our next presentation, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager. And he has a few remarks regarding the next presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know that we can top that, the kindergarten student of the month.
Competition for sure.
Yeah, that's a tough one to follow. But we have a presentation of a proclamation to Gordon Racusa, who's joining us tonight on the Zoom, in support of the Heroes Hearts Inc. Reconciliation Project. So I'm going to read the proclamation first, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Racusa so that he can make a few remarks to City Council. But the Heroes Heart.
Well, we don't. Excuse me, Nick. We don't have Gordon on video. I think he needs to turn.
It looks like he's connecting his audio. So
his audio. Do we want to give him a minute to connect the audio?
Madam Mayor, if I may, I think we also need to acknowledge that Councilwoman Rodriguez and Councilman Pacheco did join. I don't know if anybody made note of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, they did. So it seems like
Madam Mayor, I did make note of the time that council members arrived.
Thank you so much. It seems he might be having a.
I believe he's still working on connecting audio. He's buffering.
Well, while we're waiting on him, why don't we do the presentation of the president's plaque?
That is a good idea. So
yes.
We'll get to the next one. So if you, Vice Mayor Mendoza, if you want to go ahead and make that presentation. I have
Maritza here?
Yep.
There she is. Okay, she's connecting.
Okay, Maritza, you're connecting. Good. Oh, okay. Well, we're back to the presentation that Nick. Oh no, that's Julian. Looking at these names.
We're good. Go ahead. Let's go ahead and we'll do the Vice Mayor. Maritza is with us. So.
Okay, good. Okay.
Maritza. Where's Maritza? Do I see? I don't see her. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Okay.
Hola, Maritza. Okay, it's with great pleasure that I present a plaque. I'm going to show you the plaque. Let's see if you can see it. To the Las Palmas Senior Club. And Maritza is was the president of the club in 2019-2020. President served for 2 years, and Maritza served for 1 year when the pandemic hit. But during this time, Maritza continued communicating with many club members as they look up to her and her leadership and the leadership she provides. Being president is a position which requires a lot of time and dedication. Presidents are responsible for club meetings, outings, and most importantly, the senior dances and much more. Presidents take their positions very seriously So I wanted to acknowledge all presidents starting back to 1970 with the founding president, Josie Dominguez. And Maritza will be accepting the plaque on behalf of the Las Palmas Senior Citizen Club. I also have it in Spanish. Since Maritza is Spanish speaking, I'd like to say it in Spanish. Es un con gran placer que le presento esta placa a Maritza Duarte. Maritza fue la presidenta de Las Palmas Senior Citizen Club de 2019 a 2020. Los presidentes sirven durante 2 años. Maritza había servido durante 1 año cuando empezó la pandemia, pero durante este tiempo Maritza continuó comunicándose con muchos miembros del club. La frecuentan por su liderazgo y que ella proporciona. Ser presidente del club es un puesto que requiere mucho tiempo y dedicación. Los presidentes son responsables de las reuniones del club, los viajes y algo muy importante para todos los seniors es los bailes y mucho más. Los presidentes se toman muy en serio su posición, así que quería reconocer a todos los presidentes comenzando con el año 1970 con la presidenta y fundadora Josie Domínguez. Maritza va a aceptar la placa para el club de Las Palmas Senior Citizen Club. And here's the plaque. And the plaque reads, in recognition and honor of the outstanding leadership and service to the community as presidents of the Las Palmas Senior Citizens Club. It says in Spanish, en reconocimiento y honor al destacada liderazgo y servicio a la comunidad como presidente de la Las Palmas Senior Citizen Club. And I'm going to quickly read off their names. There's 12 of them, but I think it's important to recognize them. Josie Domínguez, Juan Serna, Pablo Díaz, Juan Serna, Cuauhtémoc Torres, Carlos Guzmán, Cuauhtémoc Torres, Ángel Ávila, Fred Olivares Jr., Amado Rodríguez, Julieta García, Laura Almanza, and Maritza Duarte's name will be added to the plaque. So, Maritza, ¿le gustaría decir unas palabras?
And Vice Mayor, I don't want to interrupt, but we do have the interpreter available. So if Maritza wants to say her words in Spanish, and we can have the interpreter and translate those for us.
Okay, thank you. Maritza le van a interpretar. So diga una frase por frase.
Okay. Buenas tardes y gracias Marilu, perdón, vicealcaldesa por decir tan bonito. Me hace sentir muy bien.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Vice Mayor, for saying such beautiful words and for making me feel so well.
Para mí es un honor recibir esta placa en nombre de las fundadores y expresidentes de este maravilloso club.
To me, it is an honor to receive this plaque on behalf of the former founders and also the presidents of this club.
Del Club Las Palmas. Quiero decirles un poco de la historia del club.
I want to tell you a little bit about the history of the Las Palmas Club.
Se empezó con 15 miembros y gracias al trabajo y al esfuerzo y a la perseverancia de traer nuevos miembros, hoy contamos con 300 miembros.
It started out with 15 members, but thanks to the labor and the effort and the perseverance of bringing in new members, today we have 300 members.
Y también quiero reconocer que detrás de cada nombre que está impreso en esta placa, hemos tenido el apoyo y de infinidad de voluntarios, tanto para los viajes como para los eventos.
And I also want to mention that behind each of the names on this plaque, we have had a great number of volunteers who helped out with trips, with traveling, and all the events at the club.
Que tenemos cada mes y la constancia de venir al baile. Tenemos miembros.
These events take place every month, and I would also like to thank them for the constant presence at our dances.
Hemos tenido 3 generaciones en nuestro club, por lo cual estamos muy orgullosos de nuestro club.
We have seen 3 generations come through our club, and that is why we are very proud of our club.
Estamos esperando y soñando con el momento de volver.
We are waiting and we are dreaming of the moment that we can go back.
Y me llaman preguntándome, ¿cuándo vamos a regresar?
And people are calling me, asking me, when are we coming back?
Y yo les contesto que en cuanto estemos vacunados y la ciudad lo autorice, volveremos.
And my response is, as soon as we have all been vaccinated and the city allows it.
Y que esa es la única esperanza que tenemos, que nos vacunen.
And that is our hope, that for us to be vaccinated.
Para que la pandemia se controle.
So that this pandemic can be controlled.
Le doy las gracias a cada uno de ustedes por su apoyo y por su gran calidad humana que tienen para con nosotros.
I would like to thank each one of you for your support and for being such wonderful human beings and showing that towards us.
Y yo sé que vamos a seguir contando con su apoyo.
And I know that we will continue having your support.
Es gracias a todos ustedes. Muchas gracias.
And my thanks go out to all of you. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Maritza. Also, by the way, the plaque will be placed at the Las Palmas Senior Club Center. So that when we're able to go there, you'll be able to see it on the wall someplace in that building. Gracias.
Thank you for everything. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's good to see you, Maritza. Looking forward to seeing you in person. So our next presentation, are we ready, Nick?
Yeah, let's try and let Mr. Recusa in again, Julia.
Okay.
There we go. Mr. Gordon Recusa, looks like you are with us. Can you hear us now?
He needs his audio and video to be put
I think
on.
you're on mute.
There I go.
Perfect.
And how about your video? We can't see you.
Well, it says it's on. Let's try it again here. How about now?
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, you look like you're chilling out in South Florida. We're jealous.
Well, I'm in Orange County.
No, same thing. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go back to the heroes, the proclamation to Gordon Recusa in support of the Heroes Hearts Inc. Reconciliation Project. So I will read through the proclamation and then turn it over to you, Mr. Recusa, for a few words. So the proclamation reads, Heroes Heart Inc. Whereas Heroes Heart Inc. is a nonprofit public benefit corporation that was created in response to a promise made at the direction of Salvatore Sam Recusa to his son Gordon, who's with us tonight, to do something good with a unique Two Hearts as One bracelet that Sam made with materials from a downed Japanese plane at the Battle of Pearl Harbor. And whereas, with a mission of opposing prejudice and discrimination with projects to benefit those who have experienced trauma, Heroes Hearts Inc. has engaged in creating events, projects, and scholarships using the trademark Two Hearts as One image. And whereas one of these projects, the Reconciliation Project, provides copper replicas of the Two Hearts as One bracelet to veterans and their families. Now, therefore, the San Fernando City Council does hereby congratulate Heroes Hearts Inc. on their continued success and for setting an example of doing good one deed at a time. So the proclamation is dated February 16th, 2021, and signed by all members of the City Council. So Mr. Rakusa, if you want to take a few minutes and let the council know what you're doing, and we'll be happy to hear about your project.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is an exact replica of the bracelet. I hope you can see it. I'm not sure you can.
No.
But when the 60th anniversary of Pearl Harbor came around, I was a freelance writer, and I knew my father had been in the war and at Pearl Harbor, but I didn't know much about it because he never spoke about it. And I was assigned an article by the Daily News to go to Oahu with my father and mother to have a participation in that event. So I asked if I could put him on video, and he told me about how he had pulled a piece of aluminum from a downed Japanese plane there. He didn't say much else about it, but he did tell me that the bracelet that my mother had been wearing, I didn't know any of this, by the way. This was the 60th anniversary, and the 80th is coming up now. And I was aghast at what the story was. But at my mother's memorial, he gave me the original bracelet, and he told me to do something good with it. So that's why that's our motto, do something good. Right before he passed away, I learned a lot more about the story. And one of the things that I learned was, because I asked him at the 60th if he had any good memories whatsoever from the war, and he said his only good memory was coming home and meeting his 2.5-year-old daughter for the first time. And so at the later on, I was talking to him again. I said, "Do you have any regrets in your 95 years of life?" And he said, "My only regret is losing track of my best friend from high school, Floyd Fuji." I have a picture of him. And anyways, he and Floyd Fuji both went to San Fernando High School. All of my siblings and I went to San Fernando High School. And I found later on that was significant because Floyd Fuji went to Manzanar, and that's where my father lost track of him. He was basically, I believe, embarrassed that he did not do more on behalf of his friend growing up. However, one other piece of information I learned right before he passed away was that he was in charge of an African American crew at Pearl Harbor building barracks at Hickam Field. And this has all been verified, by the way, now with Quantico and everybody else. So I decided, after my father passed away, to make exact replicas, which I have done using the VETS program at Saddleback College and laser technology. So we make exact replicas now. I wanted to make the replica originally, and I found a Holocaust survivor here in Laguna Woods, where I live, who helped me make a copper version of the aluminum bracelet. And I wrote a book about it recently. It just came out. It's called Ode to Life. And you can see on the cover there is the image of the Two Hearts as One. This has taken on a lot now. So the original bracelet is in the Pacific Island Ethnic Art Museum. The original copper bracelet is at the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. And we have launched the Reconciliation Project at the request of Rabbi Cooper to close the circle of reconciliation for World War II using this image here, two hearts beating as one. And that kind of brings us back around to why I'm here. And I really appreciate this because I think San Fernando is a big part of the story. And it was a big part of my life growing up in a culturally diverse environment. I think that this would have made my father very, very happy. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And do you have any information? How can we have our local vets get more information on the project if they're interested in participating?
A number of programs we have going. To contact us easily, go to heroeshearts.org, HEROESHEARTS.org. All of our projects are listed there, a lot of video, etc., and ways to get in touch with everybody.
Well, thank you very much. That's very touching, very beautiful. I believe that the certificate will be delivered to you. Is that correct? The proclamation will be delivered to you?
Yes, well, Julie will be in contact on how to deliver that to you. And the city clerk, if you can see it, is holding up a copy of the proclamation right there. So we'd be proud of you to display that at your organization.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Can
you.
I just say, I mean, thank you, Mr. Rakusa, for bringing some of that history. And, you know, a lot of people from San Fernando fought in World War II. We lost a lot of lives from World War II, as your father, you know, probably knew some of those individuals, and lots of families still have, and or uncles or brothers and others that they gave their lives for really a different direction for the world. And the Holocaust and other atrocities that happened during that time have to always be remembered and talked about. The Japanese internment camps, I'm glad you brought that up, that it was your dad's friend who lived here or went to San Fernando High School that he lost to the internment camps. And, you know, there was a holding cell just here in Sylmar before people went to Manzanar. It's just part of the sad history of, you know, what happened to Japanese Americans and others. So thank you for bringing that up, remembering our history and still having, you know, San Fernando in your heart. So really appreciated listening to your stories and sharing your dad's story with us.
If I could have just 30 more seconds, I just remembered, of course, I also, as a writer, wrote a book about Rico Rose, who was the first emergency services director in San Fernando. I don't know if any of you knew him or know him. He was a police officer there as well. And he is the person whose name I have submitted to basically manage the reconciliation project. So it's all tangled up with San Fernando.
That's a good tangle. I like that. Well, I'd like to thank you again very, very much. And it's been a real pleasure. And hope we have an opportunity to meet one day when we can all be at Chamber. So you can come and visit with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now go to our next presentation, item D, presentation by Deputy Director Amanda Ruiz, MD with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, to provide information on mental health resources available to our community. City Manager?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And this is pursuant to a request earlier in January that council had to task someone from county public health to provide some information for residents on mental health resources. Obviously, it's a really important service being provided right now to residents, and hopefully we can encourage more people to take advantage of some of the resources that are out there. But Dr. Ruiz, go ahead if you can go ahead and let us know some of those resources available.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen, or let me see if I can?
Yeah, if you have a PowerPoint presentation, yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Great. So I just wanted to provide some of the resources that we have with Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. So we have a helpline. That number is 1-800-854-7771. That helpline operates 24/7, and it's the primary entry point for mental health services with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. It provides 3 primary access points. So the Access Center provides referrals for crisis assessments and field deployments. So the field deployments include our psychiatric mobile response team, and also can provide an access point to the law enforcement teams and the SMART teams. So that is option 1 when you're calling the helpline. They perform mental health screenings and assessment referrals to crisis counseling. And then we have the emotional support warm line with trained active listeners, which is available from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily, which is option 2 on the helpline. We also have a veterans line for mental health support and connection to veterans programs, which also runs from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is option 3 on the helpline. In terms of the teams that are deployed from our access line, we have our psychiatric mobile response team. These are teams of clinicians that go out to mental health urgent calls, and our law enforcement teams, which are co-response teams. Those include a law enforcement officer that is trained to respond to mental health urgent calls, and a clinician. Those are co-response teams. In service area 2, we have 6 clinicians that are assigned to that area, and they cover the entire area of service area 2. We have also mental evaluation teams and SMART teams to cover the entire area, depending on the area that you live in. Also coming soon, we have our therapeutic transportation program. The therapeutic transportation program will be a team that includes a psychiatric technician, a clinical driver, and a mental health worker that will be deployed out of LA City Fire to respond to mental health urgent calls. And the difference about this team is that the calls will come in from LA City Fire. They'll be medically cleared, and the therapeutic transportation team will then take over. They'll do the mental health evaluation, and then if the patient needs to be transported, the team can actually do the transportation and transfer the patient. Let's say they need to go to the urgent care, or they need to go to social services or somewhere else. They can actually do the transportation of the client to wherever they need to go. That service will run 24/7. So we're looking forward to implementing that as soon as the memorandum of agreement is signed. We also have a text line. So if you're in a crisis, you can text LA to 741-741 and reach a crisis counselor. That's a free service 24/7, and it's support at your fingertips. Available whether you're in US or Canada or in the UK. So you can text or message. We also have suicide prevention services via the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is again available 24/7. It's free and it's confidential for persons that are in distress and need crisis resources. So that number is 1-800-273-8255. We have access to a disaster helpline 24/7, 365 days a year, which includes immediate crisis counseling and emotional distress counseling for anything related to a natural or human-caused disaster. So that number is 1-800-985-5990. For persons that need support related to crisis intervention or suicide prevention services, if they would like to talk and want support related to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning youth, the Trevor Project is a great resource. That number is 1-800-788-7380. And then we have Substance Abuse Service Helpline. And this is through LA County Department of Public Health. And the website is a wonderful website because it can link you to services in your area. You just go to the website and it'll link you to a whole host of different services. And the phone number is 1-800-985-5990. And then the last thing I'd like to refer you to is Headspace. So Headspace is a wonderful resource. You can use it on your phone or on your computer, and it's access to meditations that can be incredibly refreshing. Includes sleep and movement exercises, and can really help you just take a time out. And with all the stress related to COVID and related to all the things that we're going through right now, just taking a couple of minutes, and sometimes it can be 3 minutes or it can be 60 seconds, and a timeout with Headspace can really help you focus and can really help you reset. So I encourage you to try this resource, and it's free. So I'd be happy to take any questions and or comments.
Councilmember Pacheco, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you so much for this presentation. I think, we are all on board with, really trying to elevate the conversation around mental health. I mean, so many millions of Americans and Californians and even people in our city struggle with mental health issues. And, here in San Fernando, we really do try to look out for each other, right? We really do care about one another. We are so encouraged by, the work that you're doing and others who are, trying to not only create resources, but, inform the public that, you're not alone, and that we're really trying to erase the social stigma around, mental illness. And we really just want to encourage those, who might be, suffering from mental health illnesses or so forth, to reach out and try to get the help you need, because, it's important. And so, especially during a time like this, it's okay to not be okay. And so I just want to say thank you so much. And I will try to get the word out on these great resources as well. And I know my colleagues will as well. And, I really appreciate the efforts to, like I said, kind of elevate the conversation, erase the stigma, and, give access to those who need it. So thank you so much. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's really helpful. I wanted to just ask if you had any specific suggestions for our seniors in town. I think we know, right, that people are facing a lot of isolation right now. And I know we just had a presentation and representation from our senior club. So there's a really strong network of people to support. And I just wondered how we might be able to tie in these efforts, or if we should just pass along these resources to them.
You know, I would encourage them to call the emotional support line, this option 2. You know, we've put a lot of effort into the emotional support line, and I know the staff has trained really well, and a lot of people have called, and we've gotten a lot of feedback that that people really get a lot out of it. And they also have a whole host of really active listeners, really warm people to speak to. They really speak with the callers. They're very, very caring. And they really tailor the call to the person who's calling. And if they need any additional resources from there, they will absolutely hook the person who's calling to the thing that it is that they need.
That's great to hear. And perhaps, Vice Mayor, we can, you know, pass along that specific line to the leaders of our senior clubs. And then also, Nick, I imagine we could push these out more on our social media as well for everyone in the city.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Councilmember Montanez.
I don't have any questions. I mean, I recommend getting Headspace. It's free right now, and it's great, you know, for meditation, sleeping, exercising. I mean, it really is a wonderful app. So get it right now. That that the county. Thank you for that, for, you know, offering that. But yeah, I don't have any questions. Thanks for giving us the information in Spanish and in English, which, you know, we do have.
I absolutely appreciate it. And I appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you so much. It's at a very, very critical time. And looking forward to us going back to our new normal, whatever that's going to look like. So I guess we can't go back to a new normal, but we can look forward to our new normal. So thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Very timely.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And once again, if you need anything at all, we're always here and we're happy to help in any way we can.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes. Vice Mayor, I forgot to ask you. I'm sorry, I skipped you. I did.
I just want to thank you for the presentation. And are your services, when they call these numbers, is the information in Spanish as well?
Absolutely.
Numbers?
We actually have a whole host of what we call threshold languages. And so we have the services in multiple different languages, including Spanish.
And do you provide workshops? Are you providing any like Zoom workshops?
I'm sorry, what type of workshops?
Like on Zoom, any workshops on mental health or signs, or like things for during COVID that families could watch out for, or, you know, because we're not mental health experts, right? So we don't know what signs they should be looking for when you're home and enclosed.
You know, we have, I can get you the information for NAMI, and NAMI has specific workshops that they provide. But let me get that information for you. I'd be happy to get you that information.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. At this time, we will move to public comments. And the city attorney, will you read the quorum on order, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The city council, elected by the public, must be free to discuss issues confronting the city in an orderly environment. Public members attending city council meetings shall observe the same rules of order and decorum applicable to the city council as set forth in the city council procedural manual. Any person making impertinent, derogatory, or slanderous remarks, or who becomes boisterous while addressing the city council, or while attending the city council meeting may be removed from the room if the presiding officer so directs the sergeant of arms, and such person may be barred from further audience before the city council. That concludes the decorum statement, Madam Mayor.
Are we going to have the translator read the decorum, Nick?
No, they
Yes.
usually read they translate the public statements,
Oh,
minutes.
okay. That is great.
Wait, sorry, City Clerk, do we have them ready to do the decorum or just the public?
We haven't established actually a regular reading for the decorum order.
Oh,
Okay.
well then go ahead and I will keep my mouth shut and know my place.
Yes, okay. Would you please read the decorum and order in Spanish, please?
Yes, absolutely. El Consejo Municipal, elegido por el público, debe tener la libertad de discutir los problemas que enfrenta la ciudad en un ambiente ordenado. Los miembros del público que asistan a las reuniones del Consejo Municipal deberán observar las mismas reglas de orden y decoro aplicables al Consejo Municipal en el Manual de Procedimiento de San Fernando. Cualquier persona que haga comentarios despectivos o calumniosos, impertinentes o que se vuelva bulliciosa mientras se esté dirigiendo al Consejo Municipal o mientras asista a la reunión del Consejo Municipal puede ser sacada de la sala si el oficial que preside así se lo indica al sargento, y se puede excluir a dicha persona de seguir asistiendo a la audiencia ante el Consejo Municipal.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Madam Mayor and council members, we have one public comment submitted. And it is from Rosa Gutierrez. Hello, my name is Rosa Gutierrez, a grad student from the USC Suzanne Dworak Peck School of Social Work, and I would like a moment to speak on the mental health abuse inflicted on the immigrant community. Immigrants hope to start a new life in the land of opportunity, yet families arrive together only to be separated and detained. The Department of Homeland Security has uncovered numerous maltreatment and overcrowding cases in Custom Border Patrol facilities, all of which can worsen the mental health of families and individuals awaiting trial hearings. Fortunately, the Immigrants Mental Health Act of 2020 introduces great resources to avoid causing more trauma in CBP facilities. The act will hire professionals and train staff to help recognize risk factors and warning signs of mental health issues related to trauma. All mental evaluations of immigrants will be confidential. It cannot be used against them as they await immigration hearings. The Act's requirements include training of the CBP agents to manage stress properly, incorporate bilingual staff, and practice awareness of cultural differences. Additionally, there will be reviews to track the progress of this bill, which promises hopeful improvements of the treatment that immigrants receive, while creating better interactions between CBP staff and immigrants. Together, we can make sure CBP facilities and their staff act responsibly to make positive changes in our communities. We urge you to advocate to the mental health rights of all individuals who go through our immigration process. They are the reason for our diversity as a country, and their contributions are woven into the tapestry that is our community. Thank you for your consideration of my viewpoint on this matter. I believe it is an important issue and would like to see the legislation passed to ensure effective, empathetic policies and replacing aggressive tactics that only devalue the immigrant community. Kindest regards, Rosa.
Thank you very much.
Public
Do we have anyone on the phone to make a public statement, City Clerk?
There are no callers on the phone. That concludes public statements.
Oh, okay. At this, I now close public statements and we move to the consent calendar. Is there, well, first off, would anyone like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Can I?
Yes.
Hi, Mayor. Can I actually pull 4?
Okay. Over here. Okay, so may I have a motion to approve all items on the consent calendar other than 4?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Yes.
Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
Yes.
and Mayor Ballin.
Yes. The consent calendar other than item 4 passes. And Councilmember Rodriguez, you want to speak to item 4?
Yes, and I apologize. I don't want to prolong this any longer, but I did want an opportunity to just comment on this item and just raise awareness. I know that it's really just a technical piece that we need to approve a contract with the county to transfer these funds for this project. However, it's a pretty large project that's going to impact Recreation Park. I think will definitely, it may impede public space for a certain amount of time. And although this is one of the small technical pieces, I think kind of some of what we've learned already on this new council is, the more we can put out there in the public, the better it serves all of us. And so as we continue to approve kind of these background documents, I think it's really important that I don't know if the more appropriate venue is for it to be an agenda item to discuss, or if it should still go through consent. But I think if Matt can just give a quick overview of what's happening here and what this project is, I think that's important. And then any opportunities we get in the future to talk about these projects that are going to, really be in there in public space and have large funding behind them are important to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to give a brief background on this project, as well as the efforts to date on community outreach. So this is a project where we will be directing roughly 60% of the stormwater flow that would have gone to Pacoima Wash to a new storage system that will be below Recreation Park in a portion just outside of the baseball field. You're right, it will, for a period of time, it will have an impact, because as they do that area and build in that storage area, as the water's diverted to that buried storage, we're talking about excavations on the order of 30 feet deep. So this is it's going to take a significant amount of time to build this buried storage area where it will collect a lot of the stormwater that's happening in the city. And right now the plan is construction would take roughly 15 months. There's impacts at the park. There's also impacts to a new pipeline that would be built along Park Avenue, as well as a small portion along 5th, as well as Jesse Street that goes up to Glen Oaks Boulevard. So there will also be some street impacts as well. We would have new resurfaced streets after this, but obviously as we're building this new pipeline that goes along there, there'll be impacts to traffic leading to the park. So there are a couple of significant impacts to date. Back in 2019, the city went through a couple of community town hall meetings where we didn't have a lot of attendance, participation. As part of this project, we are required to kind of reintroduce the project to the community. So this is good timing to talk about this. And it's very important to me that we take this as an opportunity to reintroduce the project to the community. Once we have a better idea of kind of the construction timeline, even working with our contractor and our engineer to maybe, as we're getting feedback from the community, are there ways that we could look to, do certain parts of the project so it's not impacting certain programs. So it would take a lot of coordination with the Park and Recs department as well. So this is a good opportunity to have this discussion. We will be, over the next couple of months, kind of finalizing the plans, getting ready for going out to bid. So we would be coming back to council to talk about the project in general, but we can start laying the groundwork to putting together a good community outreach plan. What are the best avenues for reaching out to folks so they understand that, this portion through the baseball field is going to be out of commission for a significant chunk of time, several months, and getting feedback on how we might be able to lessen the impact as much as possible, and maybe look at scheduling in such a way that we can satisfy getting the project done in a timely manner, but also reducing the impacts as much as possible to our users in the community of the park, which is a significant number of people, obviously.
And thank you, Matt. And we had discussed a little earlier today, you know, as that timing becomes a little more clear, you know, we'll definitely put together some informational flyers, signage that we can post at the park that, you know, to inform people of you know, when that timing of the park being sort of out of commission, so to speak, will be in effect. And then also, you know, even looking at doing maybe a Facebook Live event where we have sort of a question and answer and provide information, just so that the community is aware of what this project, you know, the impact this project will have, and what our mitigations will be, you know, while we're in construction. So, you know, I think it's like I think you said, Councilmember Rodriguez, every time we have an opportunity, sort of a touch point, I mean, we'll definitely take that opportunity to announce it, but also not just at city council meetings. You know, we want to hold at least, you know, one town hall as we get closer with more information, so that it's fresh in people's mind and they understand, you know, when things are going to start happening there.
Thank you. And I do think this ties back into this idea, right, that we should be finding a way to communicate all the projects that are happening in the city so that the community is aware of them, but also knows like where they can put input on which projects, and also what's our standard for ourselves for outreach. So Mayor, thank you for the time. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on it, but I'm ready to vote.
Okay, well, let me ask Councilmember Pacheco, do you have any comments?
Sure. You know, I definitely echo the spirit of Councilwoman Rodriguez. I think it's quite a hefty project. And yeah, we have mentioned it a couple of times in the city councils in the last, you know, year or two, but, you know, as you guys mentioned, as it comes up, let's definitely rally and see what we can do about it. And I would just say that signage can be really useful. You know, we can put signs out early in the park, right, where people are still there. And if it's, you know, a multi-million project, I think it's okay to spend, you know, 500, a couple grand or whatever, to put some signs there that will last in both English and Spanish, so people know, hey, you know, in a couple weeks, this is going to be shut down for, you know, a year. So Zooms are great, Facebook Lives are great and everything, but, you know, a good old fashioned sign at the site, you know, it's really second to none. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Montanez?
Yeah, this is going to be just such a great project. I agree. Getting it out to the community, letting people talk about it, to be able to capture that 24 acre feet and be able to recharge 250, I think over 400 acre feet of water into our basin. That's huge. So I think that definitely have the community know about it. We talk about it as a model project. Like we get people excited that we are doing so much capture, have 60% of the water that could potentially flow into the Pacoima Wash. And remember, everything that flows into Pacoima Wash just goes down that Pacoima Wash, picks up all kinds of pollutants, and it contaminates like everything in between to the ocean. Trash, all that ends up out there. So being able to capture all of that helps clean the water and prevent all that runoff. And I think it's just great to be able to do this as a great model for like nature-based infrastructure. So completely agree with Councilmember Rodriguez that we should, you know, get this out, talk about it, let people know that we're working on it, and of course let people know the impacts that it's going to happen, but it's going to be worth it to be able to recharge, especially the water back into our table. And it's $9 million. So congrats to the city for, you know, being an awardee of the first round of the Safe Clean Water Program.
Well, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. It's yeah, I agree. This is a great project. Community outreach is another very important thing, the signage and whatever we can do to inform the residents. You know, the water, you know, I mean, we're going to be playing our part in saving our environment. And this is another project that's going to put San Fernando on the map, because we're active players in this environmental, saving our environment. So thank you. and great job on acquiring the funds. Staff works really hard. I know a lot of our projects that we do are with grants. It doesn't really come from our general fund. And they do a great job in making sure that we get the funds that belong to our city. Thank you.
Yeah, 100. I echo what everyone had, all the council members have said, and thank you for pulling the item, Councilmember Rodriguez. We do have to keep our residents informed, and I'm looking forward to Facebook Live or however you choose to manage that, Nick, for this particular project. At least we are giving them an opportunity to hear all the good things that are happening in the city of San Fernando. We've been working very hard for the last 6 years, and we're just continuing on with that momentum. So thank you to all the managers. It's been very rough, but I don't know how you do it. And with COVID, the responsibilities of COVID as well, my hat is off to you, but I don't wear a hat, so I'm not. Anyway, would you like to make a motion, Councilmember Rodriguez?
And Madam Mayor, if I could just say, like, when we talk acre feet, to give you an idea, what the heck does that mean? It's like over 325,000 gallons. Okay, so do the math, take out your pencil, your paper and your pen. So take that 24 times 325,000 and then take the 250 to 400 times 325,000 gallons. That's how much water, because I think we understand it better in water. So it's a lot.
How many pools?
Yeah, how many pools?
Football field with all that water. Football field. So would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I motion that we vote on item 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco,
Aye.
Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
Yes.
Mayor Ballin.
Yes. The item passes. And now I'm a little bit. That was item 4. Okay, item 5.
That was we're on item 6, Mayor, but I was actually going to with the administrative reports, which is the COVID presentation. I was going to actually respectfully request if we could talk about item 8 just for a real quick second, because staff has a recommendation. Item 8 is the discussion and presentation for the priorities. Last week we actually met with the visionary and resiliency ad hoc. We focused a lot of our discussion with the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Montanez on really the city's strategic goals for the next 3 to 5 years, which ultimately, those strategic goals form the umbrella under which council priorities, are a little bit more specific, would be developed. So staff is actually recommending that we table the council priorities for now, refer them to the visionary and the resilience ad hoc to further develop strategic goals, which we would bring back to council, in one of the meetings at March. And then when we review those strategic goals, then come back with priorities that are a little bit more refined and have sort of the guiding principles of the strategic goals developed. So that would be staff's recommendation on item 8, if we could do that, to refer it back to the resilient visionary ad hoc, and then come back at a later date with refined strategic goals that come out of that ad hoc committee.
Okay, Councilmember Pacheco, your input.
I think it's a reasonable idea. As long as when we do agendize it, there's plenty of time for the rest of the council, to input and bounce ideas off each other, and have a robust discussion. So maybe we can put a little thought into, since we're doing so much work behind the scenes, let's definitely prepare for, the public forum, when we have it. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing from the ad hoc and really refining these goals, because they do take a lot of work. There's no doubt. And I'm very confident that, the more that we put in behind the scenes, the better the public debut, so to speak. But besides that, small recommendation, I think I'm perfectly on board with that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Rodriguez?
I definitely support that. I think the priorities as written are great, but would be, better and stronger if there was those clear outlining objectives for the whole city to get behind. And I think the concept of resiliency is vital right now. So it's absolutely the right ad hoc to have that conversation. So I'm supportive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Montanez?
Yeah, I support it too. I think it's a good idea to put more kind of definitions, goals, and all that behind it. So yeah, support it.
Very good. And Vice Mayor?
I support it as well. We had a good, productive first meeting, and it'll help guide many of the plans the city has. So,
Okay, so Nick, this is just direction, correct?
Yeah, we'll just, so that's on item 8. So we can go back to item 6 on the COVID response if you'd like to do that, Mayor.
Well, there's one thing I would like the public to know is that in our consent calendar, we did a vote to have reappointed Councilmember Montanez and Rodriguez to serve on the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee. So if the community would like to give any input, those are the 2 council members that you would want to reach out to. So I just think it was important to state that. And now we're on administrative reports number 6, presentation and update regarding COVID-19 response efforts.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The presentation will be led by Deputy City Manager Tim Howe.
Mayor Ballin and council members, I am bringing up a screen share. All right, please let me know if you can see the presentation. All right, thank you. This is an update on COVID actions and the city's response. This is the latest data for City of San Fernando. Almost 5,000 cases locally. We're now up to 52 deaths locally. And for greater context, across the county, 1.1 million cases and just over 19,000 deaths thus far. The last order from the state was the limited stay-at-home order for the state of California on November 21st, which instituted a curfew. That was followed up by a regional stay-at-home order. That ended January 25th, and all counties returned to the previous blueprint for a safer economy tier system that is at the county level. The blueprint for the safer economy is 4 color-coded tiers based on risk level, and that determination is made using 3 main metrics, the main 2 being your 7-day average of daily COVID cases per 100,000 and your positivity rate. When we last provided this update to council on the data from January 26th, the statewide metrics, we had a case rate of 71 per 100,000 new COVID-19 cases and a positivity rate of 12.4%. ICU availability across the state in aggregate was 0%. Fast forward to current data, and it does show an encouraging trend. COVID cases have dropped to about 24.2 statewide. The positivity rate has declined to 6.5%, and statewide ICU availability has climbed to 17%. Within Los Angeles County specifically, and Los Angeles County, like most counties statewide, still remains in Tier 1. the most restrictive tier. That will likely remain for the next several weeks, just based on where we are in terms of the data. Nonetheless, this does show encouraging signs, a decrease in case rates, a positivity rate of under 8%, which is an important milestone. The county health officer order was last revised on February 10th. The only significant change was updating the local order to run consistently with the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision, which affected places of worship and their ability to open for indoor services at up to 25% capacity. Importantly, the County Public Health Office also signaled that elementary school campuses, TK through 5, I believe, campuses are cleared to reopen as of today. My understanding is that Los Angeles Unified School District, the largest district in the county, there are active discussions currently going on, so a reopening at the LAUSD level is not happening immediately. City Hall remains closed to the public. Las Palmas Park has been open during the pandemic as cooling centers. The swap meet permit renewal processing is on hold, and importantly to note, vendors are allowed until February 28th to renew. COVID-19 testing is available at the walk-up site at Recreation Park, which opened right around Thanksgiving, and that testing is free, and it's available 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Road closures in the downtown mall area along San Fernando Road between Brand Boulevard and Maclay Avenue. That was a program that ran during the summer through the fall and was suspended when restrictions tightened around Thanksgiving. In consultation with the San Fernando Mall Association, staff began testing earlier this month modified closure hours to start those closures back up on San Fernando Road, starting Friday evening, closure Saturday evening, and reopening Sunday morning. The city has programs for city parks, open space for service areas for local businesses to provide outdoor services, as well as an executive order was recently updated extending not only the open space program, but also outdoor service permit and the temporary banner permit through June 30th of this year. The San Fernando residential food distribution program continues, and staff is anticipating a 4th round distribution later on February 20th at Las Palmas Park. Here's an example of the items that you'd receive. On the business side, personal protective equipment, first round was back in December. Staff is anticipating a 2nd round distribution early next month. In terms of tenant protections, these were state-of-the-art in the last update, but I'll just reiterate these here. SB 91 recently signed into law, extended the protections that were put in place last year. Those protections are in place through June 30th, and uniquely, they created a state rental assistance program to assist income-qualified tenants with unpaid rent. The LA County eviction moratorium remains in effect and is in effect through at least February 28th of this year, and the county is updating that typically on a month-to-month basis. I would anticipate it's likely that an update would be coming soon to extend those protections through the end of March. COVID-19 vaccines, we have the 2 that are currently being distributed. Both require 2 doses. The state's phase 1A distribution began In December, phase 1B tier 1, which was the age delineated distribution, began January 20th to persons 65 and up. And these are the current phases of the vaccinations. This is probably one of the more heavily discussed items in our lives right now, which is the phasing. The left side are those that are actively vaccinating. Phase 1B, which is the latter tiers of phase 1B, is anticipated for March to begin, for folks to begin being eligible for vaccination. And I believe announcements were made earlier this evening about as soon as March 1st, folks being able to qualify to schedule their vaccinations across these sectors: education and childcare, emergency services, food and agriculture. And importantly to note, food and agriculture does include grocery store workers. So that's the latest news. I believe it's anticipated that will be as soon as March 1st. Where can you get the vaccine? Couple main categories: primary care clinics, which are community-based clinics, hospitals. I'd like to note that the city has been working with LA Care and USC Medical to have a pop-up vaccination clinic, which would be located at the San Fernando Swap Meet on their off days, and those tentative dates are March 3rd, 24th, and 31st as the initial wave of pop-ups. Pharmacies are another location where folks will be able to get the vaccine. There are the main sites that folks are also receiving these are the public health pods, the point of dispensing sites, and the closest one to San Fernando is located at Cal State Northridge. There's also one located in Valencia at Magic Mountain. Locally, the LA City Fire is operating point of dispensing sites. In particular, San Fernando Recreation Park is one of the LA City Fire run dispensing sites for the vaccine. In addition, FEMA and Cal OES, they are operating a mega point of dispensing site, which will be located at Cal State Los Angeles. I believe they were anticipating to open that site as soon as today. These vaccine appointments, as mentioned, these are free. Folks can register for LA County sites at vaccinatela.com. For the City of LA Fire Department sites, here's the web address. You can also call 7 days a week. This number, 833-540-0473, in order to schedule a vaccine appointment. The cold, hard, bitter reality right now is the scarcity and the lack of overall supply of vaccine doses. At this time, I don't believe at either the county or at the LA fire site that they have appointments available currently for first dose vaccines, and all vaccine doses are being allocated to the second doses of folks that have already received their first dose. However, we encourage folks, the direct advice we're receiving is to check those websites daily. In addition, if you're curious when it will be your turn, when your phase and your tier will come up to be eligible to schedule a vaccine, you can register at myturn.ca.gov, and you will be on a notification list when you do become eligible. LA County daily COVID-19 data. Here is the latest information, and this is going to tell a story that is largely encouraging. In terms of daily number of persons tested, there is a consistent trend downward. In aggregate, countywide, 5.7 million persons have been tested so far. Percent of tests that are positive, you almost see almost a perfect sort of bell curve here, and just as an indication of how this trend has changed dramatically. At or near the peak at the end of December, that positivity rate was approaching 20%. On December 27th, it was 18.4%. Our latest data as of February 8th, we're down at 6.7%. So that is an encouraging sign. Here's another encouraging bell curve shape, a daily number of hospitalized patients. As of January 1st, when we were near the peak, we were well over 7,500 hospitalized patients countywide. Our latest data as of this weekend, we're down to just over 3,000. Daily number of deaths, this is a trailing statistic. However, it also is showing an encouraging trend. We're down to, as of February 8th, 29 deaths, which is a significant departure from the peak, which was indicative on January 31st when we were up to 124. In terms of the mortality rate, this continues to climb and continues to show, this is a broken record at every meeting, just the disparate impact on communities and populations of color, and the continued disparate impact on areas of poverty. This concludes staff's presentation. We're happy and available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
And just before we, Mayor, if you don't mind, before we go back to council, I just wanted to mention a few things. Going back to the vaccination, we've created sort of an internal staff vaccination task force, from a number of different staff from a number of different departments working together on setting up sort of some vaccination opportunities. We, like Tim had mentioned, at the SWAT meet, we are working with LA Care, and we are working with a few other local healthcare providers. Again, it's all a matter of supply, but when that supply gets here, we are working for priority to get priority for eligible San Fernando residents at a number of those sites. So as soon as they can nail down dates and know when they're going to get vaccinations, and we are given sort of how to register, we will be immediately getting that information out to the public. So we will probably use our Alert San Fernando system, once we have more details on this vaccine available. And then I do want to also just kind of let everyone know that right now, residents, San Fernando residents that do, that may get a vaccine appointment but have problems with transportation, we have authorized our Dial-A-Ride provider to take any San Fernando residents to any of the the point of distribution sites if they have an appointment there. So you can call our Dial-A-Ride at 818-366-4119 to make a reservation. If you have an appointment to get a vaccine, they will provide that transportation. Again, that number is 818-366-4119. And I just wanted to add that information, as it's pertinent to our residents. So now we're ready for questions.
Councilmember Pacheco.
Thank you. It's very encouraging to see all this data. And I just do want to take a moment to really thank Mr. Tim Howe and the rest of staff. This was and is a monumental crisis. And San Fernando is a small place with a lot of people, not a lot of staff. and, you know, being able to crunch these numbers, to aggregate the information, to push the info out there, you know, through just a handful of staff members. You know, I just want to show my gratitude and appreciation to you guys. You know, you might not always get, you know, the thanks. In fact, you probably get a lot of the heat and a lot of the complaints. But I did want to take a moment to really thank you all for being, you know, the point, Tim, you know, being the point person on this you know, COVID response from the city, and, you know, obviously the rest of the staff in their support. You know, we're almost there, and obviously we don't want to take any victory laps. We still have a lot of work to do in terms of getting the information out there for the vaccination and so forth. And, you know, I think that if we continue to push out the information via social, you know, unfortunately, I think I just checked in while you were giving that phone number, Mr. Kimball. There's only 15 people watching right now. So we can definitely continue to try to push out our information in the other ways. I think that dollar ride, you know, very clever and very great idea. And that's definitely something that you said is pertinent and people will absolutely try to take advantage of, I'm sure, because it's you know, it's a very nice gesture on the city's part. So all in all, again, thank you to staff. Keep up the really good work. I hope that, you know, when this is all said and done and we take account, you know, of how we responded and, you know, where we could have done a little bit better, you know, obviously there's only so much we can do to prepare for a global pandemic that no one expected to come, right? But I feel like as a team working together, we've really shown a lot of commitment to getting the information out there and trying to be a resource to our residents. So a sincere, you know, thanks to everybody involved. And, you know, to our residents, please take advantage of these resources. You know, we are very hopeful that the vaccine gets out there. And I do want to just take a few moments to ask a couple questions. Mr. Kimball, could you maybe briefly touch on the, you know, the fact that I guess our postcard for small businesses is getting finalized or is getting pushed out, and maybe what information it might have?
Yes, actually, thank you. I was about to add that. So that postcard has been finalized tonight, and we delivered it to the printer. So we will be providing a digital copy of that that goes through all of the different permit fee waivers that City Council approved, including the business license fee waivers, the mall maintenance assessment, and the parking maintenance assessment, and then all of the encroachment permits, permit fee waivers, as well as a coming soon for the business license delinquent fee amnesty program, and the CDBG grant programs that council approved. So all of that will be, we should be sending out a hard copy of that postcard by the end of this week, but we're going to be pushing that out digitally tomorrow and getting that out to as many businesses as possible. Phase 2 will be that one was the most time sensitive because we're in the middle of renewal season for business license. Phase 2 will be shifting to work on the COVID relief program for residents. That will be hopefully next week we'll be able to get that information out.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Are there maybe any updates, or maybe you could comment on your inclinations towards making the outdoor dining in San Fernando Mall, or really just in San Fernando generally, more of a, you know, a permanent option, you know, for residents that, or for businesses that might want to dabble? I mean, is there any more discussions you can update us on the mall? I mean, I saw that you guys, you know, kind of work with them in terms of reopening the outdoor dining and street closures. I don't know if you could add a little color to that.
Sure. Yeah. With regards to outdoor dining, that is a pilot program that has always been intended to become more permanent. It was available prior as an encroachment permit. You know, outdoor dining was an allowable use. What we can do, what this has allowed us to do is create regulations specific to outdoor dining. So now that we've already created them, you know, that will be a very easy thing that you know, again, it's already authorized to be free of charge in a permit that that business owners can come in and get now. But as this pilot, you know, once COVID ends and the declared emergency is over, it will be very easy to just establish this as a permanent program, because we already have the application and the program guidelines have already been developed as part of this COVID response. So the intention is to make it a permanent program as we you know, come out of the COVID emergency.
Okay. Great. Were there any updates you might want to provide on the you know, the swap meet and what they're doing to kind of you know, do their part in terms of the, you know, the attendance and so forth? Maybe just briefly. Nothing major is fine.
Yeah, Tim, if you can take Tim has had a couple of conversations with the owner and operator of the swap meet, and they've agreed to make a number of adjustments.
Right.
So Tim, if you want to summarize those, please.
Sure. Yeah, based on discussions that staff has had with the swap meet management, we expressed, you know, our thoughts, our recommendations on improvements to the operations, improvements to issues with queuing, improvements with you know, bad actors in terms of you know, the practices that are happening out there. So those discussions were productive. Some of the process changes were really placing a prohibition on that the regrettable activity when folks basically kind of dump items on a table, and they do what we call like a clearance sale, and so that activity is basically being prohibited at this time. The second piece was really looking at within the operation where there are the sort of pinch points in terms of crowding, and so they have basically moved they've basically canceled the ability to utilize a number of vending spaces in what I'd call kind of the central area near their offices, near the staff offices. That was where they were seeing the greatest cluster and concentration of folks, and so they have cleared that area, which addresses that clustering issue. We raised concerns about just queuing of folks that are trying to enter the swap meet, and so they provided one of the items is because of the number of folks that are, especially on the weekends, that are coming, they've expanded the number of, say, queuing, you know, stickers on the ground, the markers, so that those are extended, so you have that proper 6-foot distancing, and you have that queue to folks to distance properly. We did discuss with them potential parking lot limitations, and they did explore that. Their proposed solution to the issues just with the appearance of the number of folks queuing outside was to basically look at increasing the number of their capacity, which they were keeping at a lower level than what the county was requiring, which would address you know, the queues that were being seen of the 100 people, you know, 100 you know, people plus in the queue. That was their proposed solution to that issue, and that's what they've proposed to staff, and we provided some of that feedback from the management at the swap meet to council last week.
And just to add a little additional, so I believe they were moving about 10 to 15 vendor tables, which will create a lot more space inside of the swap meet to move around and to allow social distancing. So the idea about having fewer people in a queue where, you know, they are 6 feet apart into a more open air area where there are 15 or so less vendors and there's more space to move around. I think that was the crux of their the proposal about slightly increasing the capacity. So those are all things that they worked with us over the last few weeks, and I believe they've implemented almost all of those measures.
Okay. Yeah, it's just important for me to kind of, like that phrase goes, trust but verify, right? I mean, it seems like they're acting in good faith. They are, a partner here in San Fernando, and so I'm glad they're taking it seriously, right? And thank you to staff for kind of like, keeping an eye on them, so to speak. And I will just comment briefly. I've been in and out of contact with some of the offices of our representatives and so forth. And I don't want to kind of like count our chickens before they hatch, so to speak, but the stimulus package that, Congress in Washington, D.C. will be, discussing and voting on has a very robust allocation for the community development block grants. And so I'm very hopeful that at the end of the day, the city of San Fernando will be a recipient of a good amount of federal assistance to help us, not only finish weathering this storm, so to speak, but also invest in our infrastructure, invest in our staff so that we're more prepared, for the future. And so I hope to continue to work with staff, for us to keep an eye on that and do what we can in order to lobby, so to speak, and see what we can do to really make sure that our representatives in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. understand what it's like for a small city like San Fernando to really grapple and battle with something that has been such a severe blow to our local economy and, to the public health of our residents. So that'll basically conclude my comments. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks again to staff for the presentation.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you. First, I'll echo Councilman Pacheco's statement about the community development block grant. Usually that's a formula grant, and I think there is an opportunity, Nick, where potentially I think a lot of us places that have been heavily impacted could advocate for more resources or to, refine the allocation so that we get more support since we're dealing with more of the impacts in our communities. I think along with that, as much as thank you, Tim, for this presentation, there's a lot of good news. I think it can't be lost that there's a lot of bad news that Latinos are disproportionately impacted, even though the numbers are going down. The impact on our community is significant. And of course, we're over 95% Latino. And I think I'd like to know, Nick and Tim, if there's a way we can engage in that conversation more with the county, because I think it's important that we take whatever proactive steps there are so that we can address that and mitigate the impacts. Because as much as, your numbers show us, right? Like there are people contracting the virus here, there are people dying from the virus here. That's, family members, breadwinners, people are compiling medical bills. I just think it's really important that we not ignore that fact. And so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. The only other comment I have is that when it comes to supporting our businesses and residents, I'm really excited that the card's going to go out. I want to confirm that it's also going out in Spanish. I met with the chamber and they elevated a lot of important points that we have a lot of, businesses and residents not on social media, a lot of businesses that are only Spanish speaking. And so that looks like a yes. So that's great.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's going to be a two-sided postcard. One side's English, the other side's Spanish. So that is all ready to go. Regarding your comment, actually the fact that we're a community that's disproportionately impacted has been one of the crux of our arguments for why vaccines need to be in our community quickly, and available to our community, and why we need to be prioritized. So we are definitely using that, those statistics for getting as many vaccine resources available to our community as possible. With regards to the federal legislation and sort of the next round of CARES Act, so to speak, I actually participated in a League of California Cities update today, where they talked about that bill and getting, a significant amount of funding for local cities that are at the front line of responding to to this pandemic. So, I think the league is very hopeful that at a federal level, there'll be support for that legislation. What I was going to propose to do is the city council had written a letter, in the prior administration, but, really supporting as many funds as possible for cities, especially with our, cities like us with our demographics. So I wanted to, since we need to get it out quickly and it's time sensitive, take that letter, since it's already been approved by city council, make some changes to it, circulate it for the rest of city council to look at it, make sure, and then we'll send that out, hopefully by the end of this week to our senator and to our senator, our state senators at the federal level, our 2 state senators, and Congressman Cardenas. So we'll work to get that out ASAP.
Thank you. That sounds great. That concludes my comments, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Montanez.
Do we have any idea the percentage of eligible populations that are actually that have already received the vaccine that are from San Fernando?
I don't have that information. I asked that a couple weeks ago of LAFD just to get, even if it was just what, by zip code, even though 91340 covers more than just San Fernando. The response that I received is that some of that data isn't being collected or necessarily provided right now because of, it's basically a medical record. I believe as it gets to be a larger population, they may start releasing that data, but I haven't been able to get a hold of it as of yet.
Yeah, let's keep pushing them because we were able to get a rate case, right? We know the number of cases. So we should just know without knowing the people, at least a percentage. We're the worst now, right? I mean, as of like the latest data, San Fernando is the most impacted. So this is really serious. And I don't know about everybody else, but I'm really frustrated, with the county that they are not responding to our community. I agree with what Councilmember Rodriguez said. Our community is the most impacted, Latinos, working class folks, the seniors. I mean, it's hard to make decisions and push them more when we don't even know the information, right? Yes, they have a facility here and there's high use, but how many people from San Fernando are getting the vaccine? It's something simple, right? And like actually having a strategy where our community, who's the worst today, it's unacceptable. And it's been months now and they just keep telling us the same thing. So if we could push, I appreciate your efforts, and I just think we got to push them more, call them, whatever we have to do to make sure our community is protected. And at least letting us know, maybe 50%, of seniors and other eligible populations have already received the vaccine. That would be wonderful. I doubt it though. And I really don't want those numbers to be down in the single digits as we've seen for a lot of these, especially Latino, African Americans and others, right? Where those numbers are significantly lower than the other populations. So that's a request. Whatever we have to do, if we could invite, the supervisor, the head of public health, to one of our city council meetings, I just think that they need to hear from us very directly that, this is unacceptable. People are literally dying and getting sick and we're being ignored. And we have offered all of our facilities. We have accommodated every request and they keep talking about us. Like, it's like, yeah, what good does it do for you to tell me the news if you're not doing anything about it? So I just would like for us, again, it's like we wrote the letter. Thank you for sending that out. I think that they should come and talk to us directly and talk to our community why we are not receiving the vaccine the way we should. We're the worst, and that's unacceptable.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah. Well, I do like the idea that we have a task force for the vaccine. I think that's great, centralize that. The dial-a-ride, I think signage on the dial-a-ride, the buses we use or the trolleys, so that people are aware that they'll be able to get a ride to get the vaccine or tested or whatever they need. And the spot meet, I'm really happy to hear about the proposals that they made and the changes that they're making. But just as Council Member Pacheco said, that we should, that we should follow up and make sure that they are following through with the proposals, and that they, that they know that we're watching and want to make sure of the safety of those that visit the location. And I'm pleased to hear that staff is doing what they can with the resources they have to get our residents vaccinated. And I know you're working very hard on that and getting the pods and whatever you can to make sure we get the vaccines needed. And I do agree with Council Member Montañez. We should know a percentage. We should be able to get some information as to what percentage of San Fernando residents have been vaccinated. We have no starting point, and we have no idea where we stand in this. And since our numbers are very high, I think that we should be proactive in this, and agree that we should send a letter and invite someone from the Kelly County, as Councilmember Montañez mentioned, and let's see what responses they have for us. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, I think that's something they could provide to us when we received our second vaccine on Sunday. They asked for our driver's license. They want to know our address. So I can't see, and in the questionnaire, I even think they asked your ethnic group, race, what have you. But I see there's another problem in getting our community vaccinated. And you have to be very committed and determined to log on and go through that entire frustrating process to get an appointment, and just to find out there isn't anything available. And I'm just wondering about our residents, especially our senior residents, that don't have the skill set to log on to a computer, or maybe even the phone number that's given, it's not usually answered, or they keep them on hold and it just goes in a circle. So there's a level of frustration. My point is, maybe we can partner with the library and the rec and park, and maybe they can help some of our residents that don't have computers, don't have Wi-Fi, particularly our seniors and our special needs community. So I think we need to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more forceful, as the other council members have mentioned, because why are we one of the highest, impacted on COVID? Why? Essential workers, 3 or 4 families living in a household. So there are the answers as to why. But how can we help our community? How can we help them to register and explain, don't give up. You can't give up. And so anyway, those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Mayor. And just another discussion point we've had in our task force is, we've been doing those senior wellness checks. We started at the beginning of the COVID outbreak, was to actually start using those wellness checks once we have some of the priority for vaccines for San Fernando residents, to actually use those senior wellness checks, call those lists and get those people signed up if they haven't already received it. But we can also start asking the question if they've tried to get their vaccine, if they're interested, and then offering our assistance with getting them registered if they're interested. So we'll start using those wellness checks for that effort as well.
Well, that would be very good. And as part of the COVID report, it would be great to find out how many seniors took advantage of our offer. Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Support your recommendations, Madam Mayor. Strongly support what you're saying to offer those services to have seniors, for us to help the seniors. It's hard. I mean, it is, as you said, it is so hard to get an appointment and it's so frustrating. And it would be wonderful. I completely support that recommendation.
I'm wondering, would it be possible for us to get a list of our seniors that haven't been vaccinated and get the necessary information and provide it to the LA Fire and see if they can get on the list? They're San Fernando residents. Is that a possibility? Just because it is hard, even if staff's going to go in there, they're not going to be able to get in. And, that's all they're going to be doing. But if we have San Fernando verified residents, can they, we give them a list of so many every day. And this is what their date is, and we help sign them up.
We'll continue to work with both LA City and County of LA. Just for those quote unquote government run sites, the county and city of LA, it's hard to give priority to someone on location based, but we'll continue to push on that. That's why we're really pushing the LA Care and the ones that are nonprofit or through a federally qualified health center like San Fernando Mission Community Hospital. They're very willing to do priority for, especially if we sign them up. We have a lot more control in that. So that's where we're really trying to focus on the vaccination clinic with LA Care, as well as San Fernando Community Hospital, because they have the wherewithal to work with us and to give us priority. That we've run into bigger roadblocks with the city and county facilities. So we'll continue to push that site, but that I think we can make some really strong inroads with the community health centers.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I will close it. You have enough direction, Nick and Tim, to last you for quite a while. A lot of work. Thank you. I'll close that item and we'll move to item number 7, presentation of the 2021 through 2029 housing element update to the general plan by, what is the name of that group, Nick?
Halcyon Levine.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Okay.
is that right, Tim?
Got
like
it.
April Levine. Gotcha. So we'll pass this over to Tim, as the Halcyon Levine team joins. Tim, if you want to give a quick introduction, and they'll go through a PowerPoint.
Thank you, Mayor Ballin and council members, and I believe Rob Matthews from Halcyon Levine. You should be able to share your screen and bring up the presentation. And as you do that, I'll just give a quick overview of how we got to where we are tonight. Very excited for this milestone. Every approximately 8 years, every city in California is required to go through a housing element update process. This is our opportunity to do that for the 6th cycle. It was a bit of a winding road to get to this point. I've updated the council and the community over the last several months with the roller coaster that is the regional housing needs assessment allocation, and trying to work through SCAG and trying to work through the state regarding the just vastly increased RHNA allocation that not only San Fernando received as this part of this cycle, but really all communities in Southern California. And then going through a pretty arduous process of really trying to put together the resources. And we were fortunate through a combination of grant funding sources to be able to have the resources to bring on this project team. Tonight, Rob Matthews from Halcyon Levine, who's the project lead. In addition, we have Amber Gregg from Veronica Tam and Associates, as well as Rima Chakra from Rincon. And without further ado, I will pass the presentation over to Rob.
Great, thank you, Tim. And can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and if we could just do a quick sound check to make sure, Amber and Rima, are you able to?
Yes, I'm on. Hi, I'm on.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. So, Mayor Ballin and members of the City Council, thank you for inviting us to present this evening. Before we get started, I just wanted to introduce the team briefly. I know Tim just did, but just a little more information. My name is Rob Matthews. I'm a principal with Housio Levine, or HL, and we're the lead consultant on the project. I've been a planner for more than 15 years, and I'm really looking forward to assisting the city throughout this effort. We're also supported by two sub-consultants. First is Amber Gregg from Veronica Tam Associates, who's acting as our strategic consultant on the housing element. And we also have Rima Chakra from Rincon Consultants, helping us with the public safety, environmental justice, and environmental review processes. To kick things off, let's start with the relationship of this effort to the city's general plan. As you know, every city in California must create a general plan that acts as a roadmap for the future growth of the city. General plans must address key topic areas called elements that cover land use, housing, transportation, services, etc. And each of these elements provides or establishes broad objectives, focused policies, and specific actions that the city will take to achieve its goals. The current planning effort will focus on updating the housing element to make it compliant with the state requirements coming from the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD. So here's a quick look at what we're going to cover this evening. We'll start with a project overview and timeline. We'll then look at the requirements and process for the housing element update, including our next steps to identify potential opportunity sites for housing development. And when the city updates its housing element, it must also update its public safety element and provide environmental justice policies. So we'll look at those requirements as well. And finally, we will discuss the required environmental review of the proposed housing element update to make sure it meets the state's requirements for maintaining environmental quality and engagement with the public. And once we've wrapped up our brief 10 to 15 minute presentation, we'll open things up for questions on any of these topics. Okay, so let's look at the project overview and timeline. We kicked off this effort. I think, is that coming through? Looks like it hasn't switched yet. Or maybe there's a lag on the YouTube
delay, but we're on the project overview slide.
Okay, wonderful. I'll just assume that things are good then. Okay, so we kicked off this effort a couple of months ago in December of last year. We've been putting together the maps of the existing conditions within the city and assembling the relevant documents. And we've also begun to put together a technical advisory committee that will help us shape the plan as we go along. We hope to get the TAC membership finalized in the next week or so, and we will meet regularly through the end of the year. We will have a series of public meetings beginning later this month or early March and continuing through late May or early June as we create the draft housing element and related updates. The draft plan will then go to Housing and Community Development for its review. Once all of these pieces are in place, we'll bring them to the Planning Commission and back to City Council for recommendation and adoption hearings in late September and early October. The HCD deadline for adoption of the housing element and related updates is October 15th, 2021. And if we miss this deadline, there's a 120-day grace period that gives us some flexibility. The environmental review process will get started in March or April and will run in parallel with the housing element effort. There will be multiple opportunities for the public to weigh in during this piece as well. And our consultant from Rincon will provide more information on this towards the end of the presentation. So let's now hear from Amber Gregg, who will walk us through the Regional Housing Needs Assessment process. Amber?
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for having me, Honorable Mayor and fellow City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. And I've been fascinated by listening to all the other presentations, so thank you for that. But I get the fun part of this presentation in that I get to do a little bit of a snapshot of what San Fernando looks like today. So the latest population estimates is just over 25,200. So we've increased slightly over the last decade. And the total number of households that we have are 6,550. Next slide, please. So of our population, what does that look like? Well, we have 93% are made up of Hispanic or Latino, 4.5% are white, 0.9% African American, and 1.1% Asian, with the rest making up fellow minority groups. As far as the household type, almost 80% of our households are families, so children in the home. Almost 54% are married couples with children, and 26.5% are single parent families. Just over 7% are 65 and live alone, and the remainder 12.5% are made up of typically single households. Next slide, please. So as far as the income distribution goes, on the far right-hand side here, you're going to see the county and what that average is, and San Fernando is in the center. So just under 30% are very low income, 15.5% are low income, moderate income is 16.9%, and above moderate is 38.3%. So just slightly below the county on the right-hand side. And one thing that's really important to note is the affordability of housing. And I don't mean affordable housing, I mean affordability as it pertains to every single one of us and our housing costs. So housing is considered affordable if an occupant pays no more than 30% of their income on housing costs. And as housing prices continue to rise, most likely, especially here in California, most of us are paying more than 30% of our income on housing costs. Next slide, please. So what is a housing element? Well, Rob did a really good overview on how the general plan is a blueprint and the housing portion is a blueprint on how we're going to address our housing needs. So it does provide an assessment of the city's housing needs and how to accommodate not only our current, but our future residents. And a lot of times I think people forget about the fact that we are growing and will continue to grow and need to address that. The housing element also sets aside goals, objectives, and policies for housing and identifies housing conditions and needs within the community. As Rob said, it is required to be updated every 8 years, and it must be certified by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Next slide, please. So what does the housing element require to have in it? Well, the biggest part is that it needs to accommodate projected housing demand as mandated by the state RHNA. Sounds like you've talked a lot about that with the Deputy City Manager, and we'll go over that a little bit more a little later. It also needs to address how we're going to increase housing production in order to address the RHNA demand. It will also go over preserving existing affordable housing because it is more economical to preserve the affordable housing that we have in place rather than construct more of it, and improve the safety, quality, and condition of existing housing, meaning make sure we're staying on top of maintenance and that housing remains livable and doesn't become blighted. It also needs to facilitate the development for housing for all income levels, as well as housing types, including special needs populations. And it will also promote fair housing choices for all because we want to make sure that people can choose where they want to live. Next slide. So consequences of non-compliance, a lot of times cities will just say, well, why should we comply? You know, the state is pushing this down on us. What if we just don't apply or comply with what their requirement is by the state? Well, the two major ones are the risk of litigation being the first. HCD does monitor cities for non-compliance, and they report those non-compliant cities to the Attorney General. And just to prove just how serious the state is about making sure that we do have housing elements that are in compliance, the court can impose fines up to $100,000 per month if you fall out of compliance with your housing element. So that's a pretty hefty price tag there. Additional risks are some cities have been sued, whether it's by the Attorney General or local nonprofits can sue for being out of compliance as well. If you are sued, another one could be an injunction on building permits, which would be devastation to a city. You're also become ineligible for state grants. So a lot of the infrastructure and housing grants that have been released lately, one of the first requirements is, do you have a certified housing element? And if the answer is no, you're automatically disqualified from applying for those grant funds. Next slide, please. So the RHNA allocation. So as you said, it's kind of broken down by income levels as well as the total amount. So the total RHNA allocation is 1,791 units. And then a recent state law passed that said that you need to have a 20% buffer with that. And what that basically means is it protects you so that when a developer comes in, if they don't build to that maximum density, you don't automatically fall out of compliance. For example, if you had a lot and it could allow 10 units to be built and the developer only builds 5, right out the gate, you would be deficient 5 units without having that buffer. So it's a safety valve, for lack of a better term. So that concludes my presentation. I'm going to kick it back over to Rob. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Amber. Now let's switch gears to the process of understanding how we're going to meet the city's RHNA target. As you know, San Fernando is a relatively small city at just over 2 square miles. Given the approximately 2,200 units we need to plan for, the main question is, where will it all go? To answer that question, we start by doing an analysis of conditions on the ground today. As part of this workflow, we will identify potential opportunity sites, that is, locations that have the potential to develop housing, both market rate and affordable. And that's over the next 8 years as part of the 6th cycle RHNA planning window. So here's a look at the city's zoning as it currently stands. We first look at the potential capacity for additional housing within the city's existing multifamily areas, as well as areas zoned as specific plan that allow for mixed use residential development. And we start by looking at vacant parcels first, since these are the ideal location for new housing, but like nearly all Southern California cities, there isn't very much vacant land left. So we next look at underutilized or underdeveloped land in these areas. This includes, for example, older buildings, structures that are poorly maintained, larger lots that could be subdivided, and other factors that suggest that redevelopment is potential or likely in the next 8 years. And it's very important to note that we're only planning for the potential of housing development on these sites. The planning effort does not force anyone who owns land to make any changes. Any actual development would only occur if the landowners or developers controlling the land make the decision to develop. The only exception to this is city-owned land should the city decide to sell it. And if there's not sufficient capacity to meet our RHNA obligation at this point, we have 2 choices. Either change the zoning in these areas to allow for greater flexibility or greater density, or we can look at areas, currently zoned for commercial or industrial uses. And while these areas don't currently support residential, they could be changed to allow it, either by providing a mix of uses or by changing the zoning entirely. So overall, we have 2 types of choices to make across the city: where to change zoning and how much to change zoning. Our job as the consultants is to help the city explore multiple options or pathways to achieve its RHNA obligation. We will bring these ideas to city stakeholders and the public for input on the best way to meet RHNA numbers. And as we know, there are pros and cons to every decision. So our process will help identify these to support making the best decisions possible. And finally, due to recent changes to California state law, accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, are now allowed in all single-family areas. This does not require any rezoning, and it's already a popular option for residents, as many have been built over the past 3 years. These ADUs can be used to provide additional housing for members of the extended family or provide additional income if they're rented out. Either way, these ADUs provide additional housing options, and based on recent trends, we can count a substantial number of these toward our RHNA obligation, which reduces the need to make changes elsewhere. So we've just covered the housing element aspects of our presentation. So now let's turn our attention to the second topic as we hear from Rima Chakra, Senior Planner with Rincon Consultants. Rima?
Thank you. So in addition to updating the housing element, we will be working with you to update the safety element. This is an existing chapter in the general plan that looks at the hazards that the communities could face. And so as part of new state law, we're required to consider hazards related to climate change, such as increasing number of extreme heat days and worsening air pollution, and provide policies and programs to try to increase the community's resilience. We'll also be looking to your recently updated local hazard mitigation plan to identify the natural and man-made hazards that could impact the community. We'll be identifying any residential neighborhoods that have 2 or fewer evacuation routes, that have less than 2 evacuation routes in case of an emergency, and then providing additional hazard maps as needed for the safety element update. Next slide. The state also has requirements on incorporating environmental justice considerations into a general plan. Senate Bill 1000 was passed in 2016 and requires cities who have low-income communities that have been burdened by pollution to prepare environmental justice policies in the general plan. These environmental justice policies are intended to address environmental contamination and degradation and the related health issues that come from that, which have historically been concentrated in low-income communities and communities of color. There are other broader policy topics that Senate Bill 1000 also identifies to be considered in the general plan, including increasing access to healthy foods and increasing physical activity. Next slide. So as part of this project, we'll be working with you and community members to identify disadvantaged communities in San Fernando and developing policies and objectives and programs to help reduce existing health issues and promote civic engagement, both as part of this project, but also as part of future city-led projects. This will be a new chapter in your general plan, so everything will be a new set of policies and programs. Next slide. Then as part of these element updates to the general plan, we'll be developing an environmental impact report, which will identify the impacts and implications of these new policies and programs in your general plan. This slide shows the overall process. We'll first begin with 2 rounds of public engagement. And then as Rob had shown in an earlier slide, kind of moving in parallel as the elements are being prepared, we'll be developing the environmental impact report, which will identify all the potential impacts that we could see. It starts with the notice of preparation and a scoping meeting, which provides the community a chance to identify which resources should be evaluated. And then a draft EIR becomes public for public comment. A final EIR is then produced that includes a response to the comments. And then as part of the City Council's adoption of the updated general plan elements, the EIR would be certified, and we're targeting the October deadline. So that takes us back to Rob. Thanks.
Thank you, Rima. So that concludes our presentation, and we'd now like to open things up for question and answer. We hope that we'll be able to answer all of your questions this evening, but if there's something we can't answer, we'll definitely follow up as soon as possible. Maybe one thing as a particular question that we'd like to hear from you are if there are specific communities or organizations that you think we should be reaching out to during this process, and that's specifically on housing or environmental justice issues. So thank you. We really appreciate your time and your input. And with that, I'll hand it back.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Pacheco.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the presenters. Very informative. And I will tell you that there's probably no trickier thing for local governments to deal with in Southern California right now than housing. Obviously, we are facing a housing crisis, a homelessness crisis, and Sacramento is, you know, I guess trying to do their best. And so as our SCAG representative over the last few years, I listened patiently to you know, the concern and the frustration of many SCAG representatives from their cities across the Southland with, you know, the RENA methodology and the outcome of the RENA numbers. As you probably know, we filed appeals unsuccessfully, and talk of litigation over the methodology and the results and so forth is really at a fever pitch. And so, you know, all that to say, local governments like here in San Fernando are truly between a rock and a hard place. And politically, you know, San Fernando is probably not unlike too many other places where residents seem to have a unifying thematic request from their representatives that they do not want high density housing. And so we are left with an electorate and our community who really frowns upon high density developments. And yet we have the rules and regulations around RENA requiring us to build 2,200 units in our small city here in San Fernando. And so I guess I would like to open up my questions to, the presenters, and anyone can really chime in with their expertise. But perhaps beginning with mixed use. In our downtown area, and we, recently had a presentation with our business consultants on a development project there as well. I guess really offers a first opportunity for San Fernando to make a dent in these RENA numbers. And, I really don't see how we could get around not utilizing the mixed use ideas in our downtown area. And so I guess my question preliminarily would be around the interplay of housing and parking in the transit oriented areas. Perhaps you could chime in on, what that dynamic is really like when we consider requiring, whether it's, X amount of parking spots per development in a transit oriented area, and how that might end up being counterproductive or not to more housing.
Yes, I certainly understand your concerns around the RENA process overall. This is these are mandates coming from the state, and it's our job to do the best we can to help find the most elegant solution that has the least impact, but still meet those numbers. But let me come to your specific question about the traffic. So there's a fine balance that we need to look at in transit-oriented development areas, or transit, areas that are served well by transit. Typically, the parking requirements are lowered. However, if they're lowered too much, then that can have a negative impact. And if there's too much parking, that can have an impact. And so it's really a balancing act. And what we do is look at precedents around the region for projects that are doing well and managing that trade-off well. And obviously, those are things that we'll also be looking at in the environmental impact process as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's certainly something.
Sure. I mean, maybe perhaps with what you know so far about our transit-oriented district in our area here, could you comment on, where our parking needs to go?
So I don't know if I can give a strong opinion about that right now, since we're still at the beginning of our process, but I understand that that's really critical. So we will start looking at that in earnest and develop a better understanding so that we can better address this as the process moves forward.
Yeah, and I think, where my thinking is that I feel like we're in this weird, sort of purgatory as to.
Excuse me, Councilmember Pacheco.
Yes,
Would the presenter, would you please remove the PowerPoint? We kind of like to look at everybody.
Sure. Just stop sharing screen. Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think, thank you so much. It's really important, especially here in San Fernando and in our downtown area. We're caught in this purgatory where everyone's still driving. And even though we might have a light rail coming through here, the next decade or so, people really insist on having parking in their destinations, whether it's the mall area and so forth. But on the other hand, it's a transit-oriented area with buses and trains and requiring developments to put in so much parking. I feel like there's that interplay where we are really going to need, some insight as to how to navigate that future, because we're really trying to plan for the next several years. And so I would definitely highlight that as something that's really important for us to get right. because like I said, yes, everyone's still driving, but if we had fewer cars, the air quality would be better. More people might use the public transportation. Well, hey, Councilman Pacheco, we're in a global pandemic right now. No one wants to use public transportation. So it's like this thing where, it's just so many bad options for us, right? And so I do think that mixed use in the downtown area seems like a sensible place to begin to chip away at these requirements for RENA numbers. And maybe this could be open up to our staff as well, but what would it look like to rezone our industrial areas to accommodate housing? I mean, what would that be like?
Yeah, so before we would even think about rezoning industrial or commercial areas, like I said in the presentation, we want to really understand what the capacity is currently. So ADUs will, because they're allowed by right from state law, that's going to be happening regardless. And so we want to take as much credit from that as we can, so we minimize the impact on potential changes throughout the rest of the city. Obviously, there's quite a few multifamily areas, and we want to understand what the capacity there is for growth. So we take all of the existing conditions and get as much as we can from that before we even think about start changing other areas of the city. And that's only just to pick up whatever's left over from that to meet the number. So, without diving deeper into it, I would say that, changing industrial and commercial areas would be a last resort, unless there are specific locations that are near mixed use areas or areas that would benefit the community from increasing housing in those areas. But generally speaking, it's well understood that industrial land and commercial land isn't, we're not making any more land, and that's important to maintain those things. And although there are a number of different trends in manufacturing and office space, and also for retail spaces, things change over the long arc of history. And it's really important that we keep an eye toward preserving that. So we're going to keep all of those things in mind as we present ideas. And again, it's our job to present multiple options, not to say there's one way to achieve these numbers. So if one option, it does include looking at industrial or commercial spaces, there'll be another option that minimizes the impact on those spaces as well.
Understood. Moving on, are there any housing updates that you are familiar with that have already gone after the environmental justice aspect? And maybe could you opine on what they might look like and how that kind of adds a wrinkle to a city's housing element?
Yeah, so I'll let Rima answer that question.
So the SCAG community is in the first housing cycle for the state. And so updating the housing element with the environmental justice element at the same time is kind of something that's been happening that's new when those two elements are linked. Certainly there are lots of cities that have done environmental justice elements either just individually or as part of overall comprehensive general plan updates. And we can look to those and their process. But this link between the EJ and housing element is kind of a new outcome of new state laws. So I don't have any experience I can bring off the top of my head related to this, but I know that a lot of other cities are going through this right now.
Okay, I mean, it would be great to get some information on what those cities are and where they're located, and whether they might be comparable to San Fernando, right? I would definitely just like to learn more. Obviously, I think it's important that we add this to our housing element, and now that it's required, obviously, as well. But yeah, trying to really learn what might have worked in some places and what doesn't work in other places, or really to try to be a leader, as to how we can implement a sensible environmental justice element that, goes after a lot of the problems that San Fernando residents face, like poor air quality and, not that much green space and so forth. So that would definitely be important as well. And so I guess, you know, my understanding from, you know, the chit chat here and the presentation is that we're very much in the early stages and there's not a lot of answers yet. So I understand that. And, you know, I will leave it at that, but we are looking forward to continuing to working together and really trying to make some progress on what seems to be, you know, such a monumental task here. So thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Councilmember.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was extremely thorough and easy to understand. I'm also really excited about the environmental justice component. I think because it's new, it really creates an opportunity for San Fernando to be innovative and show what can happen through the housing element plan to address environmental justice. Thank you for asking for recommendations about who to reach out to. I think the best way forward is for myself and my colleagues to potentially give some names to Tim to pass along so that you can connect with them. And then Nick, I just want to comment, this is, you know, another, and I know Amber, you commented you've been listening to the council meeting. This is another opportunity for public engagement, but also, you know, ways to tie into what the city's doing about resiliency and what the city wants to do about homelessness and addressing housing. So I just think there's a lot of themes there that we should make sure that we're connecting the dots for our community so they know how to engage in what we're doing. That concludes my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Montanez.
Okay, so are you going to do an analysis if you, I heard you say, Rob, that one of the recommendations would be potentially zone changes. So would you do an analysis that determines what the loss of revenues and income potential are to residents and the city if there is an attempt to change industrial lands to residential, or have commercial be predominantly housing as opposed to retail, office, or other uses that bring in jobs, revenues, et cetera, to the community?
Yes, those are all definitely important considerations that we would look at if recommendations were made to, or even options presented for the industrial and commercial lands. Now, one thing that might mitigate that a little bit is if, especially for commercial properties, is mixed use potentially could allow for both of those uses to exist on the site. That's not really the case for industrial. But at least for the commercial side of things and retail in particular, there is some potential overlap and some synergies that can be found.
Mm-hmm.
And well, also bringing, in terms of retail, bringing more people and more housing in can also be good for stimulating business. So there's definitely, again, pros and cons to all of these decisions, and all of those things will need to be weighed carefully.
So how do you do those analysis to truly do an evaluation of what use provides the greatest benefit to community?
Yeah, so in terms of the actual sites, I mean, there's an economic analysis in terms of the real estate development, but then there's a broader economic analysis. You know, this effort would not do that in an exhaustive way, but we can definitely look at that in a sense that helps us gauge the rough order of magnitude. And some of that also may play out through the environmental review as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so definitely, I mean, I would say, you know, industrial areas are, my perspective, off limits to housing. And priority obviously is, you know, well-paying jobs for this community. Otherwise, those numbers of 45% of people, you know, being in that low income category is never going to go up. People need to get paid well, and they need jobs. Then, I mean, one kind of just question in general, how many cities in the state of California have met these regional needs, these regional housing needs allocations?
Well, all cities are required to.
How many have met them?
So for the SCAG region, all of these projects are undergoing, they're all underway right now. And so I wouldn't be able to answer that until we have all of the plans that have been submitted towards the, you know, getting closer to that October 15th deadline.
How many cities met it the last time we did when we had targets for housing element updates and regional housing need allocations, how many cities in the state of California are compliant?
I don't know that number. Amber, do you know any of those statistics?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't know the exact number, but I do know that the state does on their website have a running total of what cities are in compliance and what cities aren't. So we could get that information and get it back to you. But just as Ron had alluded to, that, you know, because we are everyone in the state at the same time is updating their housing element, and it's like a rolling approval for all the different regions. And so since we're at the beginning of it, we can't get the numbers for the 6th cycle until those dates start closing.
Okay, so we don't know. I mean, I'd like to know how many cities are actually compliant. And then how many cities have actually faced a penalty?
So off the top of my head, I can think of a couple cities that have been sued or have faced a penalty. Now it's a low number, but they are out there, and they're cracking down more and more at the state level, just as the housing crisis continues to increase.
What are those couple?
So Huntington Beach was sued, and they settled outside of court. The city of San Clemente was sued. I apologize, that was at the state level. The city of San Clemente was sued by a private nonprofit. They did have an injunction placed against them, and they couldn't issue building permits for over 6 months, which was a huge detriment when you think about building permits, because you can't issue re-roofs or you can't issue water heater replacements, and it becomes very crippling to a community. And there's one other one that I can't think of off the top of my head, but again, they are few and far between. But if you show a continued, basically lack of compliance, that's when they tend to go after you.
Has the city of Los Angeles met its regional housing needs allocation?
Again, that would be something that we can look up on the state. I don't know any particular city off the top of my head as far as the 5th housing element goes. You did have to meet them in order to be certified under the 5th housing element or arena cycle. But as far as 6 goes, I don't know of anyone who's certified as of yet.
Do you have any idea how far behind they are? Do you guys know? How do we compare to? So, I mean, this is a mandate, unfunded, not realistic, which is why cities across the state are not meeting this. So we need to be respectful of this community. There's an economic justice as well as an environmental justice issues. When you read the newspapers, the overcrowding creates unhealthy situations. And we just talked about having the highest COVID rate infection because we have homes that are already multifamily, even though they're in R1 or R2 zones. So the numbers that you're presenting are unrealistic. To actually come in and say San Fernando has to build 2,200 new housing units, like this stuff that isn't real for us, like it's not very helpful. As a city council member, this isn't helpful to me. Like I really want to know on a housing element, how do we create the highest quality of housing that we as residents deserve? And respect, the historic land use of this community that wasn't designed 50 years ago. This is a community that is a beautiful community that's been around for over 100 years. And it works well for people that are not high income can actually have a high quality of life because we have respected the needs of this community. So I just really caution you from being numbers based, right? And not being respectful of the real needs and desires and of our community, because we are a model for how lower income people can actually have a really good quality of life. We don't have enough revenues to provide all the services that we need. We're behind in paving roads. We're behind in park improvements. We are behind in public works projects. We don't have enough police officers. There's a lot of needs that the city has. And so by continuing to push, an agenda and a policy that isn't reflective of true community development and building and quality of life, it's just a waste of our public dollars. So I just would love to have a deeper, real conversation about real housing needs for the city and how we maintain the highest quality of life for people who are not making $100,000 more a year. So a lot of people in the city still own their homes. People have converted garages. People have had these additional dwelling units for a long time. We probably invented that, in our communities, because we needed to have multiple people living in our homes because one, our families are big, and then also sometimes you need that extra income. So understanding that, I think if you go and you take a house right now and you look at how many units truly exist, you're underestimating and undercounting the number of units that actually exist in the city. You're probably just counting addresses, but not really counting how many times walls exist in a home. Divisions where you literally have in a 700 square foot home, a wall that divides it into 2 or 3 different families that are living there. Everybody has their own interests. There are different units. So properly counting may actually get you to the 2,100 number. And that's one thing that I just think we should really look at this differently and not come in with these numbers that are unrealistic and are not going to happen in the city unless we respect this community and our quality of life. Those R2 zones, go look at those R2s. Most of them are on the south side. Have you been out there? Try to build more on small lots. It's very difficult to tear down a house and build something new. How do you do that when 45% of the people in our community are low income? So unless you kick us out, it ain't gonna happen. So let's be realistic and help us actually push for realistic targets from the state and not just pushing a number that's unrealistic. Cities are not being sued. And yes, they could try to sue us, but they better sue the rich communities before they come after San Fernando.
One thing I might just point out is that I mentioned it earlier, but it's a really critical point. There's no need to guarantee that number of housing units will be built. We just need to have a planning framework in place that could.
It's a waste of time to do a plan that we're not going to meet. Why? Why even put it in the books? We're not going to meet it. To tell us that we failed? We haven't failed. This community has provided really good quality of housing for low-income people. So we have not failed in our responsibility. We've actually excelled. And yes, there are improvements that we can do. Okay, overcrowding creates problems, and we don't want those problems here. And as I said, I think that consultants and everybody else who's making a lot of money off housing should go after the rich communities before you come after us as poor communities.
Do you have any more questions, council member?
No, just let's do this right.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And it was very clear on the points that you were making. In terms of the listing of groups that you can reach out to, there was a list provided to Azure and Mr. Kimball has that available. You can probably get that from him. Outreach on this is very important. And we're currently on every project that we have right now is something that we're really focusing on. So that's something that's very important for this community, reaching out to them and understanding where their thoughts and their beliefs of what they see the city of San Fernando as. As Councilmember Pacheco said, in terms of high density, it's not what we want. You're going to find when you do your research, people don't want high density. The majority, there are a few that do, but the majority of San Fernando residents, we don't want high density. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. And I ran for city council. Quality of life is also very important to us. How are we going to maintain that? If we're going to bring in, they want us to bring in 1,791 units. I don't see how that's possible. And so that was going to bring, as Councilmember Montañez said, mentioned, how if these units, 1,791 units don't fit, is that something that you would provide in your report?
Yeah, so it's definitely part of the analysis that we're going to be providing towards the beginning of this effort, is to understand what the current capacity is, and then look at what the options are for potentially reaching that capacity. And then that will form the basis for additional substantive discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, because San Fernando is very unique, and once you hang around here, you're going to see what wonderful people we are. We're a very peaceful, loving, united community. Although we have our divisions, we do have our differences, but we are very united and in the way we think. We have the light. We have a train that goes right through the middle of our city. The regular train, right? The cargo trains that go through. We're having a light rail. We have the Metrolink, which goes throughout the day, and then bringing in the light rail. The light rail is going to impact our community quite a bit. It's not one that I'm looking forward to. I do support transportation. I do know, and I support the environment and cleaning of our air, and it will be helpful for that. But that light rail is going to go through every 6 minutes during peak hours. I just don't see how that's going to work. And then when we bring in, if they want us to bring in all those units, I don't know how that will work in the future. Maybe you're talking 15, 25 years from now, but how will life be? How will the quality of life for residents who live in San Fernando be at that time with all these trains going through? Three trains going through that rail. And then now they're thinking of bringing in now the Antelope Valley rail to go from, I think, Antelope Valley or Lancaster to Union Station. Another train that will be going through. That's not currently ready. And then, we have the housing units that are also been developed over on in Silmar on San Fernando Road, housing up above in Silmar on the other side of Foothill. Los Angeles Mission College, 15,000 units. That's their growth once they reopen. They have just one more building due to build. Those are things and factors that need to be taken into consideration. And the environmental justice portion of this, I think, is very important for our community, because our residents deserve the best, and they deserve to have a good quality of life, as Councilmember Montañez mentioned. We're longtime residents, and we shouldn't have to give up our way of life here. And we're proud of our city. We want to maintain the first city of the San Fernando Valley, and we want to preserve it as it is. And so, hopefully you'll be able to help us with that in your planning and working with our community. The other thing we don't have enough parks. So I hope that we don't say we're going to put development in place of parks, because we already don't have enough open space for our children and families to go to. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that we were one of 8 cities that did meet our RENA numbers. And it's just really, am I correct, Tim? We were about one of 8 cities that met our RENA numbers.
San Fernando during the 5th cycle, which we're right now at the halfway point, which is after year 4, basically, we were one of about a dozen that
Okay.
were on pace to meet all of our RENA requirements in the 4 different income categories within the SCAG region. As I shared with the council numerous times before, we've fallen off that pace, however. Meaning we are not on track to actually meet those in the very low income category.
Okay. All right. But pretty much we've done a much better job than many other cities. And one of the things that concerned me is when we appealed to, and there were other cities that appealed to the SCAG board, I don't think any of those board members that sat on the committee, that their cities met their RENA numbers, but yet they denied us. And actually, I think everyone that did apply is my understanding. You have a big job ahead of you, because when you're talking about all those units, and people like to talk about walkability, well, ain't happening. It's going to happen when you're much younger, but when you're a mother with 3-4 kids, we had to readjust our trolleys to accommodate our mothers to get their kids to school. It's a big challenge on the walkability, the aging factor of the community members here. It's a very small group of people that I do feel will take advantage of the walkability part of what everybody envisions. But we also have a high percentage, I think a high percentage of special needs community members. And that's another area that we need to be concerned about. So I wish you the best, because as all the council members have expressed, we have a great love for our city. We have our vision for the city. And I certainly want to reimagine, but my reimagination does not include all those units. So just so you know, you have a big road ahead of you. And I'm very curious to find out what your end presentation will be like. And when I've attended many conferences with fellow council members from the more affluent cities, they said they'd rather pay the fine, although they never have, because they weren't fined for not meeting any kind of RENA numbers. San Marino, I forgot some of these other far more affluent cities, and they have money. And if they have to pay, they pay. And they still, one of the things that the council members would say, I'm getting reelected. I am not going to vote to have more housing and low income housing at that. So how much low income housing does Beverly Hills have? Do you know?
I don't know those numbers.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find out, that the more affluent communities, how much Brentwood, how much low income housing do they have, and San Marino, and some of these beach communities. I want to know those numbers. It would be very good to know those numbers, but this is what happens, and this is what really upsets me. It's always the low income disadvantaged community that they like to do this to. And it makes Sylvia very unhappy. But like I said, I'm going to wish you the very best. And I know you'll put your best effort forward. I'm looking forward to your end report. And I think you're going to realize that I don't know where these houses are going to come from, and where's those parking opportunities going to be here in our city. So people like to say that we're going to have a walkable city, but you choose to walk. You have children, 3 or 4 children. That's a real effort to take your children on a hot day or a rainy day and walk them to school. But some of the parents might have to do that here, but at least we have a trolley to help them in those situations. Anyway, that's my input, and I just want to wish you the very best of luck. And I will have an open mind so long as you come back with the right recommendations. So, thank you so much. Is there anything else? Would anyone else like to add anything? No, I think we've all covered it. Yes, Tim.
Mayor Bellin, if I may, just one final note. Thank you, council members, for all of your comments and your feedback. Very much appreciated. Thank you to the project team. We have received a number of nominations from the council to what we call the Technical Advisory Committee, which is a group of interested folks that are going to be playing an ongoing, continuous role and providing feedback and input into this effort. So we have received nominations from the majority of the council members. We are still looking for, up to about 4 additional nominees. And this is your last and final opportunity to provide some nominations. And if we don't receive any by, say, end of this week, then Nick and I will probably just get together and start making some phone calls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate that. Okay, so what is this, Nick? Just direction, input, presentation?
Yeah, it was just an
Need
informational
action on this?
presentation, so no,
Okay.
we don't need to take a vote on anything.
Venting session, that works too. Okay, so let's see. Now we are at item 9, consideration to adopt, and thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Consideration to adopt resolutions for the submittal of a grant
Madam
application.
Mayor, did we skip item 8, I believe?
We
We
took care of item.
Here, that one already.
We took care of it already.
Okay, good.
Okay. Consideration, that's what check marks are good for. So consideration to adopt resolution for the submittal of grant applications to the statewide park development and community revitalization program and approve the acceptance of award grants. And Nick, who's going to present?
Thank you. Parks, Recreation Community Service Director Julian Venegas will provide the staff presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I would like to share my screen to go over the presentation regarding the application. Just a real quick background on the process. The City of San Fernando City Council approved a master plan back in early 2018 that lays down the foundation and provides the vision for any future development of facilities and recreational programs. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and start with my presentation, focusing on the current applications that are going to be submitted with the approval of City Council.
Okay, and when you're done with your shared screen, you'll remove that and we can all look at each other and appreciate each other, right?
Will do. Okay, so this presentation will revolve around the applications for round 4, and we'll discuss the funding source, the project selection process, the proposed revitalization projects, which will be Recreation Park, Pioneer Park, and Las Palmas Park. And we'll discuss the CEQA compliance component of these applications, and then the recommendations. So the funding source for this particular program comes from the Parks and Water Bond Act passed in 2018, which authorizes authorizes $4 billion in general obligation bonds for state and local developments, park developments, and revitalization projects. The funds are distributed over multiple rounds. There has been 3 rounds so far, and on the round 3, the city received a $1.1 million grant to renovate the Lane Park project. In this current round, there is approximately $395.3 million available. The city grant will range from $2.3 to $3.9 million. There's also in-kind match that could be leveraged towards the grant. It is not a requirement for receiving grant funds. However, in the last cycle, the city leveraged $80,000 towards the round 3 application. The city can also leverage in-kind staff time towards a project, and it's an estimate of cost to leverage in-kind staff to $101,712 for this funding cycle. The selection process, how the staff determine which projects we would include in our applications were determined again by the Park Master Plan, the PMP, which was adopted again in 2018. The PMP had extensive community input from various sources that determined the needs of the community. The tools used to gauge the community needs included telephone surveys, community workshops, sports organization questionnaires, and stakeholder interviews. In addition to the PMP, the staff had 5 community meetings to reaffirm the need assessment identified in the PMP and gather additional input on the proposed renovations. The meetings were held via Zoom, and they were held on November 4th and 19th, 2020, January 27, 2021, and February 3rd and 13th, 2021. A total of 57 participants provided feedback on the relevancy of the projects being proposed. These are the projects being proposed for Recreation Park. They're a series, now these are cost estimates, they're not hard figures. Once we get a engineering cost, would be a better idea of what they are. But roughly, this is all the programs that, or the projects that we are recommending in the grant application. They go to, they range various activities, but basically they're renovating the whole park, both inside and outside, with a total request for Recreation Park being $3,927,693. And again, they're a wide range of various renovations that are being asked. This is a site plan of what all the projects would include. As you see down here, we have the baseball diamond, the multi-purpose field, the various sections, the exercise equipment, the playground area and water feature, the picnic shelters down here, the various, in this rectangle here would be all the amenities that will be cleaning or renovating inside the building. The rock house down here. So this is the amenities for Recreation Park, gives you a bird's eye view. For for Las Palmas Park, we have again both indoor and outdoor renovations. Again, looking at the ball fields, looking at the multi-purpose fields, looking at the picnic areas, and also looking at inside renovations as well, the learning center, the indoor patio room, restrooms, the gyms, floor, and so forth. The total ask for Las Palmas Park is $3,509,075. Here is a bird's eye view of Las Palmas, showing where the features would be located in the area. So we have the multi-purpose field here, the ball diamonds, the field lights, the play area, the picnic area, the fitness equipment, the tennis court renovation, and indoor facility right in this area. For Pioneer Park, we list all outdoor facilities. We don't have indoor renovation, but renovating the play lot, adding field lighting, renovating the ball diamonds, renovating the basketball court and the tennis court, and adding lightings to that. So we do, again, go ahead and list all the amenities, and the total ask for Pioneer Park is $2,003,067.24. Here's the bird's eye view for Pioneer Park. It is the play area here, renovate the top lot, repair the parking lots here and here, adding lights to the to the basketball court, and renovating both the tennis courts here and the basketball courts, adding lighting, adding a soccer field, and renovating the baseball diamonds. Now, in regards to CEQA compliance, part of the application part is to confer with the local city or county planning agency regarding the CEQA compliance requirements. The department, the park staff talked to the community development department, and it was determined the project scope qualified for a category exception, excuse me. Oh, sorry, I just went the wrong way. There we go. So this part of the application process will include a filing of notice of exception using Class 1 and Class 2. Class 1 exception accepts the project when the operation, repair, maintenance, permitting, leasing, and minor alterations of the existing public or private structure, facility, mechanical equipment, and topical features involving negligible or no expansion of existing or formal use. Class 2 exception allows when the replacement or reconstruction of existing structures and facilities have limited or about the same use and purpose in capacity of the existing structures being replaced. The staff recommends that the City Council adopt resolutions 8054, 8055, and 8056, authorizing the submittal of the grant applications to the SPP grant program to fund the 3 revitalization park projects. Also recommend that you authorize city manager to accept any grant that is awarded, and authorize the city manager to execute all related grant documents when received under the terms of the conditions of the grant, and also authorize the city manager to amend the revenue and expenditure budgets to appropriate the grant funds upon fully execution of all grant documents. Now, have any questions regarding the grant applications?
Okay, clear your screen so we could look at each other. Very good. Thank you so much. Council Member Rodriguez.
Thank you for this presentation. I think it's just really exciting. I just had one question about, I know that kind of we're resubmitting in this round grant applications for these parks. I was wondering, have the applications been enhanced in any way, or do we feel that I noticed, of course, what you pointed out, right? We're providing more funding as a match, which is great. But I just also wondered, right, if we feel that we didn't get the funding last time because there was a lot of projects that just couldn't get chosen, or if we felt the need to change the application in some way for this round.
We did enhance the application. We are enhancing. We're providing more details in regarding the community input from the community and our partners that we partnered to facilitate the meetings and get the word out. That was one feedback that we got when we talked to the state regarding our last application process. Also, in this funding cycle, there is a lot more funds available for the applications. So we feel confident that our applications will be a little bit more competitive than last time.
That's great. All of that is great to hear. And then I know that I guess special shout out to Julie and Nick. There was a lot of promotion to attend those community meetings, and I think it just showcases the enhanced community engagement that the city's doing. So just thank you to you and the team for all the work. And when will we be learning whether or not we're selected?
Well, the applications are due March the 12th. They usually take about 3 months to do that. So we're thinking about maybe in August that we'll get word, but the last funding cycle did take a lot longer. They took about 6 months to notify this. So it all depends on how many applications are submitted and their timing to review all the applications. So I would say anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
Got it. Well, thank you again. That concludes my comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Montanez?
So I feel like the parks are being overbuilt, Julian. We're like taking every single space possible to add in, new uses. So like baseball fields are literally right next to the soccer field or these multi-use fields. Why are you proposing that?
To better use the land, the activities will not coincide, will not be happening at the same time. So you would have for example, the multi-purpose field be able to host different sports, soccer, football, any other field sport that or activity or program that is available. That would not be programmed at the same time. So the field already is being programmed right now. When we were pre-COVID, we did have soccer games out there in the field. This just enhances the field. It's not building a new one, just enhancing what we or existingly have there. So that's how those amenities have been decided to put on there. And also that were identified as needs in the park master plan and in the community meetings as what they would like to see done with the potential of renovating the park.
So is it better because there's basically a soccer field at Pioneer Park, at San Fernando Park, and then at Las Palmas that are being proposed. So wouldn't it be better just to identify and purchase land somewhere if we can't assemble it to actually build like a soccer facility?
Well, unfortunately, there's no land that is available to purchase, as all the vacant lots that we have cannot accommodate a full-fledged soccer field. If we were able to look at maybe outside the city to purchase land, that might be a possibility. But we could definitely look at those possibilities in the next funding cycle.
And just to kind of add to what Julian had stated, he actually did a pretty good job. Him and his team did a pretty good job of contacting a number of property owners that had vacant land or like land for sale. I think many of them were smaller lots that would have only accommodated maybe a pocket park. And some of them were held by trusts and not interested in selling. And there were a lot of, from a timing perspective, there were just a lot of challenges with purchasing, the new land for that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, so his team did definitely look into the possibility of how we would, potentially increase park space by purchasing additional land. I think for this round, the timing was just really difficult. We talked about the next round really focusing on maybe purchasing land that may be available and creating pocket parks or whatever, whatever that land may facilitate or may be used for.
Yeah, I just think it's better to, to plan things properly, right? The parks in San Fernando were designed really nicely, and now it just feels like we're adding in like every use that we possibly can. And then we don't, because the city is going through the CEQA exemption, which, I don't necessarily agree if we haven't, for example, looked at parking, like we're having the same issues here, that there's increased use, but there's no funding that we're going for to increase parking, right? So if we go through some kind of analysis of just these environmental issues, that maybe we would get like better projects just by making us like go through this. So, I mean, I want us to go for the funds, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to get all three. I'd be surprised if we get all three funded. So we are going to get, if we push hard, we'll get some funds from Prop 68. But I just really think that there just has to be like more just like we know we want all this, right? We want all of these uses, but then it's a question of like, do we want them all at every single park? Which is basically what we're doing now, is we're adding as many uses as possible in every single park. And so you're really changing potentially the feel of our parks. And, they were designed, a certain way for a while. So, I mean, this one, like, yeah, I don't agree with like the heavy, the heavy just desire to just build out without looking at the other options. Like I said before, can we look at the schools, right? So can we do joint use agreements with the schools? They have, they have fields, right? Some of them actually have really good fields right across, like Pioneer Park and San Fernando Park, right? So is that, I would think, maybe where we could be bringing in these uses, or the uses already exist, us actually working with the schools to help the schools maintain their facilities if they're going to be, having higher use. It's just like, it's just my feel. And
yeah, and thank you for those comments, Councilman Wright. I think for Las Palmas and Pioneer, both of those parks, and Julian, correct me if I'm wrong, it's really kind of taking what's already there and improving it, right? Like a lot of it is not adding a new baseball field, for example. It's basically putting a new, ripping it up.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just like we're adding these like, multi-purpose, fields, or basically that's what they're being called. And they're kind of this box that's added in everywhere, and you could just tell it's not. You're trying to fit it in an area where it's not allowing for just the park feel too, right? Where families, when they go to watch a game, people will go out and they'll sit in the grass and hang out, and if there's other activity going on, it's I think that having conversations with the schools, especially private and public schools, right? The independent schools and the charter schools and the public schools, especially for like, evening and weekend use. I'd like to see those options brought to us as a city.
Yes, we could definitely look at the use agreement with schools districts for other activities. But Nick was right. We are renovating the existing land. We're not adding. When we say build a multi-purpose field, it's not like bringing in a space that it's not already there. We're just renovating what's actually there. I do agree that we could look at the school district and see if there's a potential to use their particular fields.
Yeah, and what about parking? Because our parks are already over parked, right? Sometimes you try to go to the park and you can't find parking space. So how are you addressing that? If there's no money in there for new parking.
I guess the issue also is the same thing with the parking issue with all our parks. We have a certain amount of parking based on the city ordinance of what is allowed. We don't anticipate a lot more use. I think we're going to have the same use of all our facilities. We are recommending the renovation of those facilities, and the same use will continue. We don't anticipate a great more influx of people using our fields. There'll be the same user groups that have used it in the past.
Mhm. Okay, but we didn't go through that analysis and the way we would in a CEQA process, right? The city's saying here that these should just be exempt.
That's correct.
And that doesn't preclude us, you know, the CEQA exemption doesn't preclude us from doing additional parking study if we do get the grant. I mean, it's similar to what we're looking at with the Lane Park improvements. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, the reality is a CEQA analysis. If we have a consultant do just a categorical exemption analysis, it's $5,000, you know, each analysis. So, for example, the last go around, I think we submitted six applications. So just for a grant, so it would have cost, you know, $30,000 just to submit the grant applications with not even, you know, no sort of return on, potentially no return on that investment. I do think we definitely, if we receive one of these, definitely will still have plenty of opportunity to do additional study on parking and you know, just what Julian put together was a very rough outline just for the grant application purposes. If we did receive one, we would go through, we would get a full design by a professional to make it, you know, make sure everyone was laid out and spaced right and, you know, usable and oriented, you know, in the best possible way, you know, by a design professional. Again, you know, this is really the beginning stages of a grant application and we'll have a lot of things left.
I mean, I'll support because I want us to bring in more money, right? So, I mean, I'm going to support us, you know, submitting so that we could get, you know, some of this Prop 68 funds. But I do want us to you know, spend more time, you know, thank Nick for that, because yeah, in the process, if we do get these funds, is just really, you know, more, I think, properly, like being really thoughtful about how we design things. So. Yeah, but I'll end up, you know, I mean, I'll support it, you know, today so we get the applications in, because I know a deadline's coming in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Vice Mayor? Vice Mayor Mendoza?
Okay. I support the submission of the applications. I think it's great. I think staff has worked really hard on preparing all the workshops. I've met with the community. Maybe you could share with council members some of the feedback, Julian. You know, send us the documented part, that, you know, your documents on the feedback, so that we could see what they've had to say. That might be good for us to see that.
Definitely, I'll forward the notes that we took for every meeting and the suggestions that the residents provided.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, as I say, you know, staff does a great job in getting these grants. I mean, just about every time, you know, that they submit a grant, we get it. I don't know what they do, and it's a talent to submit grant applications. It's not an easy task. They have to be well written, well explained, you know, whatever. I've never written a grant, but I, you know, from experiences of hearing others speak of it, it's not an easy task. So thank you for all the work that you put in on all the grants that the city submits, because a lot of that money is not coming out of the general fund. It's not coming out of taxpayer funds. It's grant money that we get to improve the city. So, you know, kudos to all of you in the work you do.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to move the item. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Pacheco, he is absent. Councilmember Montanez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mendoza,
Yes.
and Mayor Ballin.
Yes, the motion passes. And now we are on item 10. Discussion and consideration to authorize the city manager to submit a letter in support of Immigrant Mental Health Act of 2020 on behalf of the city council to local, state, and federal legislators. And that was placed on the agenda by the vice mayor. So Vice Mayor, take it away.
And sorry to interrupt, just
Yes.
right before you go, my Vice Mayor, I just wanted to, for housekeeping, Councilmember Pacheco had to leave about midway through the item 8 on the presentation, the housing element. So I just, that's, he left for the evening a little earlier.
I think you left about 8:45.
Yeah, right. I think it was toward the end of that. I just wanted to make that announcement in case.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor Ballin and I met with Rosa Gutierrez. She's the person that submitted the public comment. And we met with her quite a while ago. And she's a current graduate at USC in social work. Her goal is to join and fight against stigmas that hinder access to mental health wellness. As a proactive person, she would like us to support the Immigration Mental Health Act of 2020, which will provide mental health services needed for individuals going through our country's immigration system, and will treat them humanely, with dignity and respect. Immigrants are suffering from traumatic, especially children being held in detention centers due to being separated from their parents. This bill will provide mental and behavioral health services, identify risk factors and warning signs of immigrants and refugees, especially among vulnerable children, which is critical. It'll address mental health and wellness of the custom border protection officers and agents. So then I'd like to ask council if you would support submitting the letter, and anyone that, basically that's it. You have the copy of the letter in your packet. You can make any additions or edit it in any way you might have any suggestions. So I will.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes. First, shout out to this student. I'm a graduate of USC's social work program, so I very much appreciate her advocacy efforts. I just wanted to make a couple comments. First, in regards to the letter, I think it would be great if staff moves, if we approve this, if staff could maybe pursue some of the leading immigrant rights agencies and mental health agencies, because I imagine if this this bill is garnering support, there might be a letter that we can just sign on to as a city, as opposed to recreating. If we are recreating, I just suggest we put it more in the format that the city council has previously done. And then the other thing I just want to ask of you all, my colleagues, is that we consider what else we can do locally to support this population or our own immigrant community, which is, over 30%. And I think it's vital that we elevate this conversation. And, of course, the beautiful first mural, elevates the awareness of what's going on at our border. And I think this bill is really important, but I think also understanding a lot of the separated children actually ended up in the Northeast Valley. So what are the mental health supports that are being provided to them? So I just ask that, we all consider ways we can take other steps forward to address these issues. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Martinez.
I don't have any questions, but to say, Vice Mayor and Mayor, for meeting Rosa and for bringing this issue up to us. I think it's just really important for us to show leadership that we are going to do what we can to help protect those immigrant populations. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, and I will strongly support this.
That's really great, and I'm very grateful to Rosa that her voice matters. This is her passion, and she came to us, and I'm really pleased that we're all supporting her, mentoring her, and showing that she can make a difference when she reaches out. And we never want to discourage our young people from reaching out to do the right thing. And I'm just very grateful that we're in total support of her. Had no doubt that we would be. And if the letter needs to be massaged, the Vice Mayor and I are 100% supportive of massaging the letter, making it stronger. I do agree with Council Member Rodriguez. We need to look at other ways to elevate the conversation. The thing that concerns me is we want to do so much and there's so little time and we have staffing issues. So we have to really, pull back a little bit. And I'm kind of glad that the priorities are going to the ad hoc committee because, we really have to narrow it. We're in COVID and I'm seeing our managers getting grayer and more wrinkles than I have. So I'm worried about our managers. So let's consider that we have a lot to get done and we have a few years together. So we can pace ourselves and get it done. I know that we can. And we need to take advantage of Senator Padilla. He's going to be a great resource for us. And so we need to tap into him. He's a good man. So I'm going to, this isn't a motion, is it, Nick? This is just a giving direction. I can't hear you.
I know I was trying to, my mouse is getting a mind of its own. It's just direction to, we got council direction. So staff will prepare a letter and circulate it for signature, and then we'll get it off to the appropriate elected officials.
Okay, and I just want to mention that Rosa did draft something out. So, I'm glad we'll enhance it. We'll enhance it. I know that she's listening, and I just want to do everything to encourage her. She's going into the mental health facility, and props to her. I am very proud of that young lady. So thank you, Nick, and thank you, council members. I appreciate it. So, it breaks my heart that we're at this point of the agenda. I'm going to miss all of you. Couldn't say that.
It's only 9:30.
It's only 9:30. Gosh. Okay, we're at staff communication, including commission updates. Nick, this is all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll start with Chief Viro.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. All I have is just a reminder for our community. Tomorrow night is our monthly neighborhood watch meeting via Zoom. I hope we can get some more participation in this event. It's a little difficult because of Zoom, because of the COVID. Hopefully in the next few months, we'll get the clearance to have in-person meetings, but keep crossing our fingers and do the best we can. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Public Works Director Matt Baumgartner.
Yes, I just have two quick items for the council and the community. We applied for and received recognition for the 13th year now as Tree City USA program. So I just wanted to mention that to everyone. And also on Friday, we will be hosting our first, as part of the Safe and Active Streets project, our advisory group will be meeting for the first time to discuss the priority projects that will come out of this, as well as starting to shape the community outreach program. So we'll be starting that process on Friday with the advisory group. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Matt. We will go to Finance Director Diego Ibanez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have two items. Next Monday, we will be having our town hall for Measure A from 6 to 7 p.m. on the 22nd of February. And starting in March, we will be starting our budget process for fiscal year 21-22. That's all I have.
Thank you, Diego. City Clerk Julia Fritz.
Yes, we have a Education Commission meeting coming up next Tuesday, February 23rd. And also wanted to make a notation that the scholarships for the essays for the scholarships are coming to a close this Friday, February 19th. And we're going to send one, the Education Commission would like to send one more social media blast out there just to get those students to apply for those grants. And I think that's it. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director Tim Howe.
The Planning and Preservation Commission had their February meeting last Monday. They had a robust discussion about recent changes at the state law level to accessory dwelling units. And their upcoming March meeting will be on Monday, March 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to go first, and then we'll let Julian go last. Just the only thing I have is real quick. You know, now that the as we saw earlier, the COVID numbers locally are starting to reduce, and where the state restrictions have been lifted, we will be starting Monday, the 22nd. So next Monday, we will open City Hall at the modified hours that we have in the past been open on, which means from noon to 5:30 on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We will continue to have someone, we'll have staff stationed at the entrance to make sure that we're following all the protocol and there aren't, too many, we don't exceed any occupancy standards, and people that visit, are following all protocols and wearing masks. So we will start that on next Monday. Again, that will just be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, noon to 5:30. City Hall will be open to the public again on that modified schedule. And then Mr. Venegas, Director of Community Recreation and Community Services, has a final announcement.
Hello. I have a sad note to bring. I'd like to request that the City Council adjourn in the memory of Juan Manuel Jimenez Lopez. He was a Mariachi Master's Apprentice Program instructor for the last 12 years. Unfortunately, he succumbed to COVID-19 on February the 5th, 2021. Juan is considered one of the finest guitarón players as a member of the Mariachi Los Camperos de Nati Cano. He has accompanied and recorded with numerous Mexican artists, including Linda Ronstadt, Vicky Carr, Pepe Aguilar, Fernando Fernandez, Lila Downs, and Eugenia Leon. Mr. Jimenez appeared on various Hollywood motion pictures, including A Walk in the Clouds, Sex in the City, starring Jessica Parker, Fiesta Mexicana, a PBS special narrated by Vicky Carr. Juan also was a featured artist in the 2006 Grammy nomination album for Best Mexican Album, Llegaron Los Camperos, concert favorites of Nati Cañón's Mariachi Los Camperos, and in 2008 Grammy Award-winning album for Best Mexican Album, 100% Mexicano by Pepe Aguilar. And in 2006, he was involved with the Grammy Award-winning Best Album, Best Regional Mexican Album, Amor, Dolor y Lágrimas by Mariachi Los Camperos de Nayarit. Mr. Jimenez was featured artist on Ray Cooper's The Chieftains 2010 release of San Patricio, Mariachi Los Camperos de Nati Canto. He has been an instrumental instructor for all our students, and I wish his family my condolences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll definitely close in his memory. Very sad about his passing. Now we will go to general council comments, board member comments, and liaison updates. And I'll start with, and that would be ad hoc committee updates as well. So I'll start with Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, and thank you, Julian. Just some updates are that we had a CDBG ad hoc meeting where we discussed updates to promote all of the things that we'll be offering businesses for relief during COVID, named from Vice Mayor San Fernando COVID Relief. Very clever and very straightforward title. So thank you to staff for starting to get that out as of today, right? The printing. The other update is I, as of last week, officially joined the Independent Cities Association board, and they are hosting a winter seminar that's taking place this Saturday. Usually this is a seminar that happens like in Santa Barbara, and it's a pretty high expense for council members to stay and to participate in, but because of COVID, it's all going virtual and it's only $25 to participate, and there's a lot of valuable sessions that you all might be interested in. So I'll make sure, Nick, that you have the information to blast out to all my colleagues in case anyone's interested in joining. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Montanez.
I mean, yeah, Julian, thank you for the adjournment in honor of Juan. What an incredibly talented man and just a great heart. I mean, he was phenomenal and helps our students, like our young mariachis, so much. And it's just so sad that COVID took him, unnecessarily and too early. So, our love goes out to all his family and his colleagues that just lost him so suddenly. And then just a quick, Vice Mayor Mendoza and I had our Visionary Resiliency Committee, ad hoc committee. So we started laying out what the work plan, since it's a new committee. And this is one where we're going to start just looking at the overall just goals of the where we want to go as a city, Mayor, as you just said, right? Focus. So that to focus on what we could actually get done in 2021 and, give us the option to make those adjustments as we go into 2022 and some of the outer years. So it was a really good first discussion, and we look forward to going through all the goals and kind of help setting up a framework that could allow us to spend the limited time and financial resources that we have, like in the most highly impactful way.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I had a bit of a busy week, but I did meet twice with the San Fernando Valley COG, right? I'll report back on that on the next meeting once they give me the motion. There was some, we had a special meeting regarding the freeway over by Burbank and funding for that project. So once I get the motion given to me that we voted on, I'll present it at our next meeting. And we did have a very good Visionary Resilience ad hoc committee meeting, very productive for the first meeting with Mr. Kimball and Mr. Howe. I look forward to more meetings to discuss the strategic plans. And we were even looking at the mission statement as the city's mission statement and how to incorporate all that in everything that the city is doing and every project that we have. We also met with Councilmember Montañez on the POB, the pension obligation bonds. We had our first meeting on that, and we'll be. We just got an overview of the whole process of selecting what do we call him, Nick?
An underwriter.
An underwriter. Yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to. I'm not going to give an MWD update today, so I'll spare you all that. But what I would like to do is recognize Black History Month. And President Reagan issued Presidential Proclamation 5443, which proclaimed that the foremost purpose of Black History Month is to make all Americans aware of this struggle for freedom and equal opportunity. This proclamation stated further that this month was a time to celebrate the many achievements of African Americans. And I just wanted to acknowledge Black History Month. There's a lot to be said as far as some of these wonderful people, heroes in the Black community. I don't want to start naming names because then somebody else say, but you forgot. And there's just a nice, wonderful list of true leaders. And with that, I am going to, my heart is very broken. about Juan's death, and we found out today that we had two very close friends that passed away of COVID as well. Great community members. So with that, I'm going to adjourn in the memory of Juan Manuel Jimenez Lopez. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Night.
Good night, everyone.